In a vacant lot where the grass had not been mowed for a long time and grew freely, two unknown guys made eye contact and silently prepared for a sword fight. Their movements were swift, precise, and dangerous. The first boy, with a shiny sword in his hand, quickly attacked. His blows were strong and accurate, forcing the enemy to back away. But he did not give up and deftly parried every attack. The sun was setting, bathing the field in golden light. The shadows were lengthening, creating a dramatic setting, and each sword strike echoed, adding tension to this fight. The second guy, holding his sword tightly, began to counterattack with incredible speed and agility. His movements were almost invisible, but the opponent still held on and tried not to retreat. At some point, the first guy could not withstand the onslaught. His sword flew out of his hands and he fell to his knees, admitting defeat, and the second one triumphantly raised his sword as a sign of victory. Mrs. Sarah, sitting in her luxurious chambers, suddenly noticed how the door opened, and Mr. Frank appeared in the doorway, which caused her sincere surprise, since she did not expect his visit at that time. She watched with curiosity as Mr. Frank confidently entered her chambers, and his presence immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the room, creating an atmosphere of tense anticipation. Mr. Frank, coming closer, smiled welcomingly, which puzzled Mrs. Sarah even more, because his unexpected appearance in her chambers seemed not at all accidental, but rather carefully planned. Trying to hide her surprise, Mrs. Sarah invited him to sit down and offered to drink tea, trying to understand the true reason for his visit, and unraveling what could have brought him to her at that moment. Having politely accepted the invitation, Mr. Frank sat down opposite him, and their eyes met, forcing Mrs. Sarah to think about what secrets and news this unexpected guest could bring with him to her chambers. Mrs. Sarah, looking carefully at Mr. Frank, suddenly noticed a bright red spot on his snow-white shirt, which made her raise her eyebrows in surprise and wonder where it could come from. Trying to understand the nature of this stain, she could not take her eyes off Mr. Frank's shirt, wondering how such a bright and noticeable stain could appear on his clothes without his knowledge. She remembered seeing him wearing the same shirt at a recent party, and there were no marks there, which made the stain even more mysterious and made Mrs. Sarah feel uneasy. Unable to resist, Mrs. Sarah decided to ask Mr. Frank where he got this red spot, hoping that he could give a reasonable explanation and dispel her growing concern. Mr. Frank, hearing her question, looked at his shirt and frowned slightly, noticing this stain for the first time, which caused him no less surprise and bewilderment than Mrs. Sarah. Mr. Frank, taking a deep breath, began to tell Mrs. Sarah that the stain on his shirt was not red paint at all, but traces of blood that appeared after he tried to help the wounded man. Sarah listened to him with surprise and alarm, not believing her ears that her friend could be in such a situation where his clothes were stained with blood, and still could not understand what had actually happened. He continued explaining that the wounded man was an important person, and he could not leave him without help. But now, knowing this, he hoped that Mistress Sarah would understand his actions and would not judge him for this stain. Mr. Frank said that he could not foresee such a turn of events, and that the blood got on his clothes completely by accident. But now he only cares about one thing: the opinion of Mrs. Sarah. He looked at Mrs. Sarah with alarm, hoping that she would not hate him for this incident, realizing that his action was dictated solely by good intentions and a desire to help. Mrs. Sarah, suddenly feeling a strange sensation, was reborn into her childhood and found herself in the familiar courtyard of her house, where she spent endless summer days playing with friends and dreaming about the future. Standing on the threshold of her orphanage, she tried to understand how this was possible and what could have brought her to this time, gradually remembering all the joys and worries of her carefree childhood. Having carefully examined everything around, Mrs. Sarah realized that every corner and every tree in the yard was familiar to her, down to the smallest detail, and this helped her understand that she had truly returned to her past. Sarah sat on the old swing she loved to ride on as a child, and thought about what she was like back then, realizing that her current self and her childhood self were the same being, but with different experiences. Lost in memories, Ms. Sarah realized that this unexpected transition into childhood gave her the opportunity to rethink her life and remember important lessons that she had once learned and may have forgotten. The girl spent her days in a huge castle trying to make friends among the inhabitants, despite the fact that most perceived her as a villain due to rumors and misunderstandings. She organized games and tried to bring joy to every corner of the castle, hoping that her sincerity and kindness would help break down the barrier of mistrust that others had erected around her. Each time meeting unkind glances, Mrs. Sarah did not lose hope and continued to show attention and care to others, believing that her efforts would sooner or later be appreciated. Even when the children refused to play with her, she did not give up and came up with new ways to prove her innocence and true intentions, showing persistence and patience. Over time, some began to notice that her actions did not fit the image of a villain and began to look at her in a new way, allowing Mistress Sarah to finally feel that she was on the right path to friendship and understanding. One day, while walking through the garden of the castle, Mrs. Sarah met a boy and a girl who were playing near the castle, and despite her excitement, she decided to approach them and start a conversation. The boy and girl looked at her with caution at first, but Sarah smiled welcomingly and offered to join their game, trying to show that she had no evil intentions. Sarah began to tell them funny stories from her childhood, and gradually the ice of mistrust began to melt. The children listened to her with interest, noticing that she did not look like a villain at all. The boy and girl began to ask Sarah questions about her life in the castle, and she answered happily, talking about her adventures and dreams, feeling that she was beginning to win their trust. The conversation continued until the evening, and by the end of the day, the children already perceived Sarah as a good friend, and not as a villain, which filled her heart with joy and hope for a better future. Mrs. Sarah, living in a huge castle, found time every day to walk through its luxurious corridors and halls to meet with her peers and share news and stories. Despite the fact that she was surrounded by splendor and luxury, she sought simple human communication and tried to build friendships with other children, whom she often met in the garden or playroom. Sarah organized various activities such as picnics and games so that everyone could get to know each other better and have fun, which helped strengthen her bonds with her peers. Every meeting with new friends brought her joy, and she was sincerely glad that her efforts to establish contacts were not in vain, and she was beginning to be perceived as an equal among other children. Over time, thanks to her friendliness and openness, Mrs. Sarah was able to gain the trust and respect of her peers, which made her life in the castle happier and more meaningful. Sarah decided that watching her diet was important for her health and began writing down everything she ate every day to make sure her diet was balanced and included all the necessary vitamins and minerals. She tried to avoid sweets and junk food instead, choosing fresh fruits, vegetables, and healthy snacks, hoping that this would help her feel better and have more energy. Every day, Sarah prepared breakfast, lunch, and dinner for herself, taking into account recommendations for proper nutrition, experimenting with new recipes, and trying to make food not only healthy, but also tasty. At first, it was difficult for her to give up her favorite sweets, but gradually she got used to the new regime and noticed how her health improved and her mood became more stable and joyful. Sarah also began to take an interest in sports to keep fit, and realized that eating right and being active helped her achieve her goals and feel happy and healthy. Princess Sarah, seeing her younger sister Adele at the castle, decided to go over and talk to her about a recent misunderstanding, hoping to mend fences and explain her side of the story. However, when Sarah began to come closer and called Adele's name, the girl suddenly became afraid. Her eyes widened in fear, and she quickly turned to run away. Princess Sarah tried to catch up with her sister, but Adele had already disappeared behind the trees, leaving her bewildered and worried about what could have scared the girl so much and why she ran away. Sarah stopped, realizing that there was no point in trying to catch up with Adele now, and wondered what she might have done wrong that had caused such fear in her little sister and caused her to run. Determined not to leave the situation unresolved, Princess Sarah promised herself that she would find another way to talk to Adele in order to allay her fears and restore harmony in their relationship. After several unsuccessful attempts by Sarah to talk to Adele, she decided to change strategy and invited her little sister for a walk in their favorite garden, hoping that the atmosphere of quiet time together would help relieve the tension. During the walk, Sarah tried not to intrude and simply enjoyed the moment, hoping that Adele would gradually open up and start a conversation. Despite her efforts, Adele remained silent and tense, avoiding glances and answering only direct questions with short answers. Seeing that her girl was not ready to talk, Sarah decided not to rush things and give Adele time to restore trust and comfort. After some time, Sarah decided it was important to stay in touch with Adele and decided to wait until her little sister felt ready to open up and share her feelings. Princess Sarah, sighing tiredly, approached the castle door behind which her sister Adele was hiding. She had already tried many times to start a conversation, but each time something prevented them from getting together in a dialogue, be it responsibilities or simply a mismatch in schedule. This time, Sarah decided to wait longer, confident that now she would be able to talk. Finally, the door slowly opened, and Adele appeared before the princess, also tired from long days of caring for the castle and her people. Sarah said with relief, eager to reconcile. However, their conversation was interrupted by the ringing of bells announcing a sudden meeting of the Council of Assistants. Both sisters sighed and separated again, hoping that the next attempt would be successful. Silence reigned in the castle again, and the determination not to give up and to look for time for the long-awaited conversation grew stronger in their hearts. There were new days ahead and new opportunities to reconcile and restore the lost ties between the sisters. Princess Sarah tried to talk to her sister Adele again at the castle, but her every attempt was thwarted by the maids who strictly followed the castle's routines and protocols. Despite the princess's persistence and her desire to restore contact with her sister, each time meetings with Adele turned out to be impossible due to unexpected obstacles created by the maids. Sarah often felt frustrated and resentful when faced with bureaucratic obstacles at the castle that prevented her from even getting closer to her sister. She began to wonder how to get around these strict rules and find a moment when she could finally really talk to Adele, regardless of the presence of the maids. The determination grew in her heart not to give up and to continue to fight to be reunited with her sister, even if she had to overcome many obstacles along the way. The king, meeting with one of his loyal subjects, heard unexpected news. His daughter Sarah is persistently trying to establish a connection with her sister Adele. This information puzzled the monarch, who had long believed that the differences in their family could no longer be overcome due to the current circumstances. The king decided that it was time to intervene and try to resolve the misunderstandings between his daughters in order to restore the family ties that were once strong. He ordered his advisors to begin an investigation and find out how to ensure the possibility of a meeting between Sarah and Adele, bypassing the obstacles and prejudices that reign in their environment. In the depths of his soul, the king hoped that his children would find the strength to forgive and understand each other, thereby restoring the lost harmony in the kingdom. Princess Sarah, snacking on a piece of lemon, thought about how to restore lost ties with her sister after many years of discord. Her thoughts hovered about the past, about how they played together, as children shared secrets, and dreamed of the future, not suspecting that time and distance could become such strong barriers. Sarah chewed her food slowly, feeling in her heart a desire to right the wrongs of the past and return to the time when their bond was unshakable. The princess's eyes flashed with memories of her sister's laughter, her tender words, and wise advice, which she now realized as treasures lost in the unknown depths of time. Sarah sighed resolutely. Summoning all her strength to begin the first step towards reconciliation, for their bond was too precious to remain broken. The continuation of the dinner was eventful. Sarah carefully tasted each dish, enjoying their aromas and tastes. She enjoyed discovering new flavor facets and finding something special and unique in each dish. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, as each bite revealed a new world of flavor discovery and possibility. Dinner became not just a meal, but a real journey through culinary traditions and cultural characteristics. Sarah thanked the chef for his creativity and skill, feeling that each dish carried not only taste, but also a piece of art and soul. The next day, Princess Sarah went outside with her sister Adele, enjoying the fresh morning air and warm rays of the sun. They walked slowly through the narrow streets of the old city, discussing past memories and making plans for the future. There was silence and calm all around, only occasionally interrupted by the noise of people passing by and the ringing of bells at a nearby church. Sarah and Adele exchanged smiles and words of encouragement, feeling the distance between them shrinking with each passing moment. This day became a new beginning for them, a symbol of rebirth and an opportunity to restore lost ties and strengthen them for the future. Princess Sarah continued her walk through the ancient park and suddenly noticed a small black cat with bright yellow eyes who was watching her with curiosity from behind the old fountain. Her heart began to twinkle from the unexpected meeting, and she slowly approached the cute creature, softly calling him Moon. because his eyes shone brighter than the sparks of the moon in the night sky. The kitten also seemed interested in her presence and approached cautiously, purring and slowly twirling its tail as if greeting a new friend. Sarah smiled, feeling warmth and joy from this unexpected friendship that appeared in her life as a gift of fate. They spent the entire day together, playing hide-and-seek among the ancient trees of the park and enjoying the moments of carefree happiness that every minute of their communication brought. Sarah and Luna enjoyed the tranquility of the park, where every rustle of leaves seemed to send a magical message, reminding them of the simplicity and beauty of moments. The kitten selflessly trusted the princess, as if they were old friends who had found each other again after a long separation, and each of their glances was filled with mutual understanding and warmth. Sarah felt the moon helping her forget about her worries and problems, reminding her of the simplicity and beauty of moments in which joy and inspiration can be found. This day became a symbol of new friendship and unexpected meetings that could change the princess's whole life for the better, filling her heart with joy and hope for a bright future. Sarah thanked fate for this meeting and promised Luna that their friendship would last a lifetime, filling every day with laughter, love, and boundless happiness. Sarah and Luna enjoyed the tranquility of the park, where every rustle of leaves seemed a magical message, reminding them of the simplicity and beauty of moments in which peace and inspiration for new beginnings can be found. The kitten selflessly trusted the princess as if they were old friends who had found each other again after a long separation, and each of their glances was filled with mutual understanding and the warmth of sincere friendship. Sarah felt how the moon helped her forget about her worries and problems, reminding her of the simplicity and beauty of moments in which she could find joy and inspiration for new beginnings. This day became a symbol of new friendship and unexpected meetings that could change the princess's whole life for the better, filling her heart with joy and hope for a bright future full of opportunities and exciting discoveries. Sarah thanked fate for this meeting and promised the moon that their friendship would last a lifetime, filling every day with laughter, love, and boundless happiness, like a magical spark illuminating their path together. Princess Sarah and her sister Adele strolled through the elegant garden of the castle, enjoying the gentle morning sun and the scent of flowers around. They noticed a cute black cat purring softly as he played with the leaves on the path, attracting the girls' attention with his lively eyes. Sarah, delighted with the cat, quickly approached, extending her hand for a gentle stroking, despite Adele's slight concern in her gaze. Adele, watching her sister with disbelief, hid her doubts behind a polite smile, maintaining a distance from the unpredictable animal. There was a subtle dynamic in their relationship, as Sarah's love of animals clashed with Adele's wariness, creating a tense but interesting combination of characters. Princess Sarah and her sister Adele walked through the elegant garden of the castle, enjoying the fragrance of flowers and the singing of birds. Sarah looked with pleasure at the cute black cat, who playfully shook his tail under the sun's rays. Adele, standing nearby, watched her sister with disbelief, not quite sharing her delight in approaching an unknown animal. She blinked skeptically, wondering about the possible consequences of approaching such an unusual creature. The princess's gazes froze on the cat, and a feeling of uncertainty hung in the air which they both tried to ignore. Sarah, accustomed to the friendliness of animals, gently extended her hand to the cat, smiling at him with the hope of a friendly greeting. Adele approached slowly, carefully watching her sister's every move, relying more on her own instincts than Sarah's rosy notions of safety. Suddenly, the cat, assessing the situation, turned sharply and disappeared among the dense green thickets, leaving behind only a slight echo of its calling meow. The princesses exchanged glances, realizing that different opinions about the world could cause them misunderstandings and rivalry in the upcoming adventures. However, the cat was already forgotten, replaced by new exciting thoughts about what awaits them in the future, because each of the sisters wanted to prove that they were right in family matters and relationships. Sarah, carried away by the search, did not let up and continued to follow the cat through the thickets until she finally found him sitting under a tree. The princess's heart deservedly warmed with joy as she approached and affectionately hugged the cute cat, who purred in response to her gentle touch. Joy and peace filled Sarah when she playfully threw the ball, and the cat enthusiastically set off in pursuit of it, periodically somersaulting and making funny jumps. Adele, who had been watching her sister from afar, could not help but smile when she saw how Sarah found a common language with the black cat, and began to slowly approach, feeling the warmth from their cheerful game. Thus, laughter and joy sounded in the world of the castle, thanks to the unexpected and difficult union of the princess and the black cat, who found in each other a faithful friend and companion in their adventures. Sarah, never discouraged in her search, finally found the cat hiding under an old oak tree, his black fur glistening in the sun as she approached him with a smile on her face. Gently hugging him, she felt his warmth and softness fill her heart. The cat's purring became a melodic accompaniment of this moment. Then she cheerfully threw him a small ball, and the cat, easily grabbing it with his paws, made deft leaps and somersaults on the green grass, as if putting on his own show. At this time, Adele, watching them from afar, could not help but smile, seeing how Sarah so easily found a common language with the cat which she had initially doubted. This moment became a symbol of a new union and understanding between the sisters, ready to accept and share each other's world in its diversity, in which playing and having fun with the cat became not only a joyful activity, but also a way to strengthen the bond between them. Suddenly, a young prince appeared from behind the trees, his eyes sparkling at the sight of Sarah playing with the cat in the sun. He involuntarily smiled, watching their funny game, and sincerely rejoiced at this moment of carefree happiness. Adele, feeling out of place in this idyll, quietly walked away to the side, hiding her vague feelings under an awkward smile. The prince came closer, examining Sarah and her faithful companion with interest. His heart trembled with excitement, feeling that the meeting with this princess would be fateful. Sarah, without losing her playfulness, introduced the cat to the prince, who smiled and leaned down to pet it, feeling warmth and gratitude from the animal. Thus began a new acquaintance that changed the course of things in the castle, leaving Adele alone with her thoughts and hopes for a better future. The prince, engrossed in conversation with Sarah, learned about her hobbies and adventures that she experienced in the castle, carefully delving into every detail of her stories. Sarah happily shared her stories, laughed cheerfully about her adventures with her cat, described her dreams for the future, and shared her deep thoughts about life. The prince listened to her with an open heart and mind, sometimes admiring her openness and unconventional view of things, which distinguished her from the other ladies in the castle. Adele, meanwhile, walked along the castle alleys thinking about herself and her place in this world, thoughtfully watching the golden rays of the sunset that penetrated through the foliage of the trees. Thus, not only friendship arose between the princess, the prince, and her faithful cat, but also the opportunity for future adventures, mutual inspiration and romance, which filled their lives with new meaning and hope for a happy future. The white-haired prince and Princess Sarah walked in the garden, enjoying the fresh air and the beauty of flowering plants, discussing their dreams and plans for the future, because they were best friends and trusted each other in everything. In the garden, they found secluded corners where they could sit and talk, sharing their joys and sorrows with each other, and felt that their friendship was becoming stronger and stronger every day. The prince told Sarah about his adventures in distant lands, and she shared her stories about palace life and the intricacies of court intrigue, and their conversations were always full of laughter and warmth. Together, they loved to watch the birds sitting on the branches, listen to their melodious singing, and discuss what other wonders of nature could be discovered, and each such moment brought them great pleasure and joy. Every day their friendship only became stronger, and they knew that they could always count on each other's support, no matter what trials and obstacles life would throw at them. Princess Sarah and the white-haired prince often had picnics in the most picturesque corners of the garden, where they could enjoy delicious treats and talk about their dreams and hopes inspired by the beauty of the surrounding nature. When the garden was filled with the aromas of blooming roses and jasmine, they wandered along its paths for hours, sharing thoughts and experiences with each other, and every such day was a real holiday of friendship for them. Sometimes they had little competitions playing hide-and-seek among the tall bushes and trees, and their laughter echoed throughout the garden, filling its atmosphere with joy and carefreeness, reminding them of childhood. In the evenings, when the sun set behind the horizon and the garden was enveloped in the soft light of the moon, the prince and Sarah sat on a bench by the pond, watching the reflection of the stars on the water, and these moments were especially magical for them. Their walks in the garden not only strengthened their friendship, but also filled their hearts with warmth and joy, helping them forget about all the difficulties and worries and giving them hope for a bright and happy future together. The prince and princess loved to study the ancient statues and fountains hidden in the depths of the garden, and each time they found something new and interesting, which brought them even closer together and strengthened their friendship. On sunny days, they made wreaths of wildflowers and decorated each other with them, laughing and enjoying the simple pleasures these moments brought them, and they felt carefree and happy. Sometimes they brought books and read them aloud under the shade of an old oak tree, plunging into magical worlds and sharing their impressions, and these readings were a real ritual for them, which they both. The prince told Sarah stories about his future plans and dreams, and she in turn shared her hopes and desires, and each conversation made their relationship even more sincere and close. On cloudy days, when the sky was overcast, they found shelter in a cozy gazebo and listened to the sound of the rain, enjoying the warmth of their friendship and the feeling of security that they gave each other. As evening fell on the garden, the prince and Princess Sarah slowly walked back to the palace, discussing everything they had seen and experienced that day, and enjoying the last minutes of peace and quiet. They walked along the main alley illuminated by the soft light of lanterns, and each step felt warmth and comfort in their hearts, knowing that their friendship had survived another wonderful day, filled with joy and laughter. At the end of the walk, they always stopped at the old oak tree to make each other a promise that tomorrow they would meet again and spend another unforgettable day in this magical garden, which became their second home. Princess Sarah studied hard every day in the castle, where she was taught the sciences, arts, and etiquette, so that she could become a wise and fair ruler of her country in the future as her parents wished. She studied mathematics and history in the mornings, after which she spent time playing the piano and drawing, developing her creative skills and ear for music. After lunch, Sarah attended riding and fencing lessons to be in good physical shape and be able to defend herself in case of danger, because it was important for the princess to be brave and agile. In the evening, sitting in the cozy library of the castle, the princess read books about the great rulers of the past, analyzing their mistakes and achievements, trying to learn something new from their experience. From time to time, guest teachers from different parts of the world came to the castle to teach Sarah new languages and cultures, expanding her horizons and preparing her for diplomatic missions. As Princess Sarah grew older, she delved into more complex subjects such as philosophy and politics, studying the works of great thinkers to better understand the world and the people she would rule. One of her favorite teachers, a wise old man from distant lands, taught her the art of diplomacy, showing how important it is to negotiate and find compromises in difficult situations. Sarah also studied foreign languages, spending hours reading books in French, Spanish, and Latin, which helped her communicate freely with castle guests and expand her cultural horizons. The castle often hosted scientific symposiums where eminent scientists and philosophers shared their knowledge, and Sarah was always present at these meetings, asking questions and participating in discussions. In addition to her academic studies, the princess participated in charitable projects, organizing aid for those in need and learning through practice how to improve the lives of ordinary people in her kingdom. The maids at the castle often gathered in their room after work and discussed Princess Sarah, expressing their doubts and dissatisfaction with her methods of government and the way she interacted with her subjects. Many of the maids believed that the princess was too young and inexperienced to make important decisions, and that her vision for the future of the kingdom could lead to unpredictable consequences. Some said that Sarah does not understand the real problems of the people and spends too much time on diplomacy, forgetting about the needs of ordinary people who live in her kingdom and need help. However, among the maids there was one named Anna who believed in Princess Sarah and her abilities, claiming that the young ruler sincerely strives to make life in the kingdom better for everyone. Anna tried to convince the other maids that they needed to give Sarah a chance to prove herself and support her endeavors, because only together can they overcome difficulties and achieve prosperity in the kingdom. Princess Sarah one day overheard the maids in the castle discussing her, expressing their doubts and dissatisfaction, saying that she lacked experience and understanding of the real problems of the kingdom. She stood outside the door listening to their conversation and was upset to hear how many of them did not trust her and considered her too young and inexperienced to be a ruler. However, Princess Sarah also heard the voice of Anna, one of the maids, who came to her defense, claiming that Sarah was sincerely committed to improving the lives of everyone in the kingdom and was trustworthy. Anna's words touched Sarah deeply, and she felt grateful for the support, realizing that not everyone doubted her abilities, and that there were those who believed in her and her vision for the future. The princess decided to work even harder to justify Anna's trust and show everyone that she was worthy of being a ruler, and that her youth and desire for change could lead the kingdom to prosperity. Princess Sarah, dressed in exquisite silks, spent the morning playing outside her ancestral castle, enjoying the bright morning sun and birdsong in the garden. Her hair, woven into a complex braid, was decorated with precious hairpins, the shine of which shone against the background of green leaves and blooming. Princess Sarah, laughing with joy, played hide and seek with her little friends from the court, hiding behind the ancient rose bushes. The majestic walls of the castle, surrounded by tall towers and manicured gardens, served as the backdrop for this idyllic game. The cheerful laughter of Princess Sarah was echoed by the wind whispering among the trees and bringing the aromas of flowers and green herbs. Princess Sarah, enjoying her morning walk in the garden, suddenly noticed a boy lying unconscious on the soft grass, his pale face contrasting with the brightness of the flowers around him. Princess Sarah's heart beat faster. She immediately approached the boy, feeling the light breathing and pulse in his wrist, making sure he was alive. Suddenly discovering that the boy was breathing, Princess Sarah breathed a sigh of relief and immediately called the servants to bring water and help him come to his senses. Remaining calm, she gently awakened the boy, hugging his arm and comforting him, speaking soothing words and holding his eyes. Soon the boy opened his eyes. Looking around in bewilderment, Princess Sarah smiled at him and met him with open arms, offering help and support. Princess Sarah, despite her noble birth, carried the unconscious boy with courage and determination to a wonderful and famous doctor in the city, who was known for his medical knowledge and experience. The doctor, who greeted them with attention and care, immediately began examining and diagnosing the boy, concerned about his condition and trying to establish the reasons for the loss of consciousness. Princess Sarah, standing at the boy's side, nervously clasped her hands, waiting for the doctor's verdict and hoping that the boy would recover and be safe. The doctor examined the boy carefully, asking questions about his condition and previous events to understand what could have led to his loss of consciousness. After a long examination and observation, the doctor reassured Princess Sarah, saying that the boy was safe and would soon come to his senses thanks to the princess's quick and attentive response and timely medical care. The doctor looked at Princess Sarah seriously, explaining that the boy's condition was caused by an ancient curse that made any medical interventions difficult at this time. Sarah, with excitement and anxiety in her eyes, listened carefully to every word of the doctor, realizing that the curse was something that exceeded ordinary medical knowledge and capabilities. The doctor explained that to completely cure the boy, a temporary stopping of the curse would be required, which requires special knowledge and rituals that are not available in ordinary medical practice. Sarah, despite the disappointment on her face, focused on supporting the boy and finding ways to help, even if it meant turning to magic or spiritual help. The doctor assured her that the boy would receive all the necessary medical care and support, while they looked for ways to cope with the ancient curse that weighed heavily on his destiny. With a quiet sigh, the princess sat down on the edge of the bed where the boy lay and picked up an old softcover book that contained stories about ancient legends and tales. She opened the book, her gaze drawn to the pages decorated with mysterious illustrations and golden letters, revealing the wisdom of the ancestors and knowledge that could be useful in their situation. Sarah read aloud in a soft, soothing voice, the words taking on new meaning and significance in light of the boy's events, hoping to find a clue or wisdom that would help them further. As time passed slowly, the book proved to be a source of comfort and moral support for Sarah, who found in it strength and faith that they could cope with the challenge that fate threw at them. In the silence and calm of the room, Sarah, sitting next to the boy, continued to read, knowing that every word, every thought could bring hope and healing to those who needed their help. Princess Sarah, having finished reading, looked up from the book and headed towards the hall where her father, the wise king, was waiting for her. He greeted her with a serious expression and immediately began talking about the boy who was lying unconscious. The king, concerned about the princess's safety and future, suggested that the boy be taken to an orphanage where he believed he would receive the necessary medical care and attention. Princess Sarah, with a gloomy look, politely but decisively asked her father not to give the boy, who had become almost like a brother to her, into someone else's society, preferring to take care of him and his well-being. Their words shared pain and sympathy, but also Sarah's unwavering determination to remain true to her human duty and obligation to those who needed her protection and care. The king, with a deep sigh and understanding, eventually agreed with Princess Sarah's decision, recognizing in her the strength and compassion needed to face the challenges and trials fate had thrown their way. The king, agreeing with his daughter's decision, breathed a sigh of relief, understanding her determination and compassion for the misfortune of others. He nodded softly. Princess Sarah looked at her father with a deep sense of gratitude and promised him that she would not betray his trust, preparing for the difficult journey of restoring the boy's health and unraveling the secrets that may be the key to his healing. The king, leaving, left them in the silence of the halls of his castle, knowing that his daughter would show the wisdom and strength necessary to solve this unexpected challenge that had come into their lives. Princess Sarah hugged the boy, feeling his warmth and weak breathing, and promised herself and him that she would be there to overcome all difficulties and return him to a full life. In their arms lay the promise and hope that together they could overcome any obstacles and curses they would have to face on their path to healing and returning the boy to a healthy and joyful life. After Princess Sarah took the boy into her custody at the castle, bad rumors began to spread about her decision, considering it careless and unwise. Despite this, she tried not to pay attention to gossip and slander, stubbornly focused on her mission of helping the boy and restoring his health. The castle, usually filled with noise and fun, was now filled with whispers and incredulous glances, but Princess Sarah remained steadfast in her decision and believed in the goodness and justice of her intentions. She carefully cared for the boy, providing him with treatment, care, and love, despite all the difficulties and unkind opinions that she had to overcome. Princess Sarah, strengthened by her faith in justice and good intentions, continued her mission, not being influenced by other people's opinions and striving to ensure that the boy could return to a full life under her caring protection. In order to acquire holy water that could remove an ancient curse from a boy, Princess Sarah decided to sell all her luxurious dresses and precious accessories that her father, the king, gave her as a sign of his love and care. These dresses were the embodiment of her status and wealth, but for Princess Sarah, it was more important to do everything possible to save the boy from an unknown force so strong that even the king could not defeat it. Selling her precious possessions was not an easy decision, but Princess Sarah gave up all comfort and luxury to bring healing and hope into the life of someone who needed her help. Everyone knew about her sacrifice and dedication, but this did not stop those who knew about her from spreading gossip and slander emphasizing their doubts about the correctness of her actions. Princess Sarah, steadfastly ignoring gossip and condemnation, had only one goal in mind: to remove the curse from the boy and return him to the life that was stolen from him due to an ancient misfortune. The maids noticed how Princess Sarah suddenly began to sell her jewelry. Their surprise was mixed with bewilderment and concern about the changes taking place in the castle. Some of the maids, despite her good intentions, continued to secretly spread rumors and gossip because the princess's past was filled with mysteries and mystical events that left a stamp of suspicion and doubt on her. Princess Sarah, although she felt the general discontent and suspicious attitude of some of the handmaids, tried not to pay attention to this, focusing solely on her noble assignment. Her actions conveyed determination and confidence that she was willing to make even the most difficult sacrifices for the sake of the boy's healing, even if it meant facing the suspicions and criticism of others. Through the silent glances and whispers lay faith and hope that Princess Sarah, despite everything, would find the strength and solution to overcome any obstacles and face the challenges thrown at her by fate. She gently touched his forehead, feeling the pulsation and warmth that indicated his struggle with an unknown evil. Her eyes reflected helplessness and longing as she prayed in her heart that the boy would endure until she could get holy water that could relieve his suffering. Princess Sarah, focused and dedicated, hugged the boy as if praying not only for his healing, but also for the fortitude to overcome the hardships that lay in their path. Her prayers expressed a willingness to challenge the ancient evil that surrounded the boy, and the belief that the power of love and compassion could overcome any obstacles and curses. Amidst the silent castle and secret conversations, she remained firm in her decision and hope that joint efforts and faith would lead them to healing and the opportunity to start a new life, freed from the shadow of the past. Princess Sarah, leaving the boy for a few minutes, went to the kitchen to get ordinary water to quench his thirst. Suddenly, halfway to the kitchen, the princess was stopped by her sister Adele, accompanied by two maids standing next to her. Adele, with doubt in her voice, asked Princess Sarah about the reasons for her unusual behavior and strange decisions, which caused disapproval and doubts among some members of the castle staff. Princess Sarah, with restraint and confidence, explained her mission to save the boy and the need for action, which in her opinion was the only way to resist the unknown evil that had consumed him. The sisters' views and words were intertwined in a complex tapestry of disagreement and support, but Princess Sarah remained steadfast in her decision and willingness to sacrifice everything to bring the boy back to life and health. Princess Adele was pleasantly surprised by the care that Sarah showed for the unfamiliar boy in the castle, where everyone was waiting for her magical caress. Sarah, already in the kitchen, gently asked the cooks for some ice for the injured boy, her voice sounding decisive and full of compassion. The princess, standing on a high balcony, watched Sarah's actions with surprise and awe, seeing how a simple girl copes with unexpected circumstances. Sarah, returning with a bowl of ice, gently laid him down next to the victim, trying to do everything possible for his comfort. Princess Adele realized that true kindness does not depend on status or origin, and she was pleased to know that in her castle there was a place not only for luxury, but also for real human compassion. In the kitchen, Sarah was glad to meet the maid who always treated the princess with respect and kindness, who helped her deliver ice to the injured boy. They shared experiences and advice on how to improve conditions for the victim, and each of them did everything possible to ease his suffering. Princess Adele, having learned about the help that her devoted maids provided her, was deeply touched. The maid smiled. Seeing the gratitude and recognition in the princess's eyes, her heart filled with pride that she could be useful to her mistress at such a difficult moment. She summoned dear holy water capable of breaking the most powerful curses and healing hearts cursed with merciless pain. He slowly opened his eyes, as if meeting for the first time the light that had once been lost in the darkness of despair. Tears of gratitude welled up in the princess's eyes as she saw the boy recovering from invisible wounds and becoming stronger in the face of dark force. The magic of water had its effect, revealing to the boy new possibilities and strength of spirit that he did not know about himself. The princess smiled, seeing how the boy began to glow with an inner light, overcoming obstacles and curses that seemed insurmountable. After waking up, the boy felt detached from reality, looking incredulously at Princess Sarah, who stood in front of him with a bottle of holy water. His heart was beating wildly until he realized that the curse he had struggled with all his life could be lifted thanks to her help. It seemed to the boy that the world around him was beginning to change, as if under the influence of magic that had just happened. Sarah looked at him with keen interest. Her eyes shone with hope and secret confidence in the success of her action. At that moment, the boy realized that his life would change forever thanks to his meeting with this mysterious princess and her unusual abilities. The princess found a stranger wandering around her kingdom, and seeing his emaciated state, decided to shelter him in the palace to try to help him using all her resources and knowledge. She learned that the stranger had suffered from the hardships of a long journey and despair, and did not hesitate to invite him to rest and gain strength while she prepared holy water to improve his condition. The princess received holy water from an old sage who assured that this water had healing properties that could help even in the most difficult cases, and the princess believed in this with all her soul. The stranger, thanking the princess for her kindness, gratefully accepted her help and began to drink holy water, hoping for a miraculous recovery, which, according to the princess, would definitely happen. Every day, the princess checked the stranger's condition carefully, watching for any signs of improvement, and every day she became more and more confident that her efforts were not in vain. Princess Sarah, having learned about the stranger who was at the gates of her castle, decided to shelter him in her chambers and surround him with care, pouring holy water on him to improve his condition and bring him back to life. In one of the beautiful bedrooms of the castle, decorated with exquisite tapestries and golden ornaments, the stranger slowly began to regain consciousness, feeling the warmth and care emanating from Princess Sarah. Sarah, with her kindness and ability to care for others, did not leave the stranger, monitored his breathing and condition, hoping that her efforts and holy water would help him get back on his feet. The stranger, lying in bed, felt weak and exhausted, but also grateful for the help that Princess Sarah gave him, whose care and holy water brought him relief and hope. Princess Sarah, seeing the stranger open his eyes and begin to return to life, smiled at him because her holy water and attention helped him gain strength. And now he was ready to face a new day. Princess Sarah sat in her room furnished with luxurious decorations and looked at the boy she had recently saved. With a smile, they began to discuss what to cook for dinner. The boy gratefully told the princess about his favorite dishes, dreaming of fried chicken with potatoes and fresh vegetables that reminded him of the home where he grew up. Princess Sarah listened carefully to the boy, writing down his wishes on a piece of paper to later give to the cooks, and adding her own ideas for dessert to make the dinner special. They continued their discussion, looking at soup and appetizer options, and Sarah suggested adding a fresh salad with herbs to make dinner not only delicious but also healthy. The boy smiled when the princess mentioned her favorite childhood treat, chocolate cake, and he expressed his gratitude for the attention and care Sarah showed him. Princess Sarah, sitting in her comfortable chair, continued her conversation with the boy she had rescued, inquiring about his life before his rescue and his hopes for the future in order to better understand him. The boy gratefully told Sarah about his adventures and difficulties that he had to endure, and also shared his dreams of a happy and calm life away from danger. Sarah listened to him with genuine interest, asking questions about his family and friends to help him feel important and needed, and to show him that he was not alone in this world. The conversation continued with the boy telling the princess stories about his favorite places and activities that brought him joy, while Sarah offered new ideas for his future. Princess Sarah tried to support him, talking about her own experiences and dreams in order to inspire the boy to new achievements and help him gain confidence in his abilities. Princess Sarah and the boy she had saved continued to talk as they sat by the fireplace in her cozy room, sharing stories of their lives and finding solace and joy in their companionship. The boy looked at the princess with admiration, listening to her stories about palace life holidays and adventures that filled her days, and felt that he was also part of this world. Sarah, seeing the boy's interest, talked about her childhood dreams and those moments that shaped her character, trying to inspire him to believe in his own strengths and capabilities. They talked about the importance of having friends and supporting each other, especially in difficult times, and the boy told the princess about his best friends whom he hoped to see again. Princess Sarah invited the boy to stay in the palace for a while so that he could rest and gain strength, while they together planned his future full of new hopes and opportunities. Princess Sarah, with a smile on her face, brought lunch to the boy she had saved on a large carved silver tray and carefully placed it on the table for him to enjoy the delicious meal. The boy, surprised and touched by such attention, thanked the princess for her care and began to taste various dishes with appetite, each of which was prepared with love and skill by the chefs. Sarah sat down next to the boy and began to tell him about each dish, its history, and ingredients in order to make their dinner even more fun and educational for her guest. The princess happily watched the boy enjoying his food and asked him about his preferences in order to take into account his tastes in the future and make every meal special and enjoyable for him. Lunch came to an end, and Sarah offered the boy the dessert that she herself had chosen for him, knowing that sweets always lift the spirits and make any day a little brighter and happier. Princess Sarah decided to take a walk through the castle garden, enjoying the fresh air and the beauty of the flowering plants that surrounded her, and reflecting on her recent adventure and the rescued boy. During her walk, she met a gardener who told her about new varieties of roses brought from distant countries and how they would decorate the garden, adding even more colors and scents. The princess stopped at the fountain where crystal-clear water fell from the marble statues and thought about how important it is to appreciate every moment of life, and decided to give this moment to the boy she saved. That same evening, she invited the boy for a walk through the garden to show him all the beautiful corners and tell him the stories associated with these places, making their time together unforgettable. They walked for a long time under the stars, talking and laughing, and the boy felt that he was finding not only a new place to live, but also a true friend in the person of Princess Sarah, who cared for him with kindness and warmth. Princess Sarah was preparing for an important reception that was to take place at their castle. She carefully chose her dress and jewelry to look dignified and befitting of her high status. During her preparations, she kept the boy she saved in mind and decided to invite him to this reception so that he could see how events like this take place and feel part of royal life. The boy, having received the invitation, was excited and happy. He had never been to such a reception before and did not know what to expect, but he trusted the princess and hoped that everything would go well. As the reception began, Princess Sarah introduced the boy to her guests, telling his story, and everyone was touched by his courage and grateful to the princess for her kindness and care. The evening passed in an atmosphere of fun and joy, and the boy felt that he had found a new place in this world where he was valued and respected, and where he could be happy thanks to Princess Sarah. Princess Sarah and the boy she saved sent a letter to his family filled with kind words and sincere wishes to keep in touch and help him feel closer to home. After sending the letter, they returned to the garden where they strolled along the green alleys and enjoyed the smell of flowers, discussing plans for the future and dreams of what adventures lay ahead of them. Princess Sarah promised the boy that they would look for new, interesting places together and explore the surroundings of the castle so that every day would be filled with new discoveries and joy. In the evening, they gathered in the great hall of the castle to spend time with friends and guests, where the boy first tried royal treats and learned more about the customs of the nobility. Princess Sarah looked at the boy with pride, seeing how he adapted to his new life and discovered new horizons for himself, and knew that he would find his place in their castle where only kindness and care awaited him. Princess Sarah and her sister Princess Adele, along with the boy Sarah saved, gathered around a table in the castle's elegant dining room. They enjoyed a delicious lunch of fresh fruit, fragrant bread, and aromatic tea, talking about past adventures and future plans. Sarah talked about her trips to distant lands, the wisdom she found there, and how her heart changed after meeting the boy. Adele listened with admiration, delicately adding her thoughts about the duty of princesses to the people and the importance of helping others. The boy listened gratefully to their stories, feeling part of their world, and knowing that this dinner had become a symbol of their friendship and the contact of their worlds. Princess Sarah, with excitement in her voice, told her sister and the boy about an adventure in the forest when they met a rare animal. Princess Adele listened with interest and made comments about how important it was to remain vigilant in dangerous places. The boy, grateful for the rescue, smiled cheerfully and talked about his dreams of becoming an explorer of unknown lands. At lunch, there were delicious dishes on the table, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and happiness from meeting friends. Together, they discussed future adventures and planned new expeditions to amazing corners of the world. Princess Sarah suddenly remembered the magical river that she had heard about from the old witch and invited everyone to go in search of this mysterious place. Princess Adele agreed with a smile, believing that such a search would be an excellent test of their courage and ability to work as a team. The boy was looking forward to a new adventure and happily joined the sisters' plans, full of hope of meeting extraordinary miracles. After finishing lunch, they sat down in a sunny clearing where they made plans together and dreamed about what mysteries they still had to solve. In the evening, they returned to the castle filled with delight and a thirst for new discoveries, ready for another day of adventure and exploration. In the castle, under the glow of warm lanterns, they continued to discuss their plans and ideas for future adventures, exchanging inspiration and enthusiasm. Princess Sarah expressed the hope that their research will help uncover the secrets of ancient legends hidden in the corners of the world. Princess Adele suggested studying ancient maps and records to find traces of stories that could lead them to new discoveries. The boy, taking a map and a pen, began to draw routes, dreaming of the adventures that awaited them ahead and the new friends they would meet. So they spent the evening full of hope and excitement before new days filled with mysteries and opportunities to explore the unknown expanses of the world. Princess Sarah and Princess Adele, with smiles on their faces, gave the boy a special lunch to celebrate his rescue from the clutches of the evil wolf. At the table in the castle dining room, their conversations sounded cheerful about adventures, about how they met and became inseparable friends. The boy, grateful for the hospitality and care, told them about his dreams of becoming a knight and protecting the weak and oppressed. Princess Sarah listened with interest to his stories, supporting his hopes for the future and sharing her own plans. The dinner took place in an atmosphere of warmth and friendship, reminding each of them how important it is to have loyal and devoted friends nearby. Princess Adele, recalling her own adventures, shared with the boy stories about how she and her sister fought dragons and saved the kingdom from evil sorcerers. The boy listened to their stories with admiration, seeing in them not only heroes but also a source of inspiration for his own future exploits. After finishing lunch, they went to the castle garden where, under the flowering trees, they continued their conversations about friendship, dreams, and plans for the future. In the evening, looking at the sunset and listening to the birds singing, they hugged, feeling that their friendship was only strengthening with each new day. Thus ended another day at the castle, filled with the joy of meeting and hope for future adventures together. In a castle of grandeur and sophistication, Princess Sarah and her sister spend their days decorating their armor with beautiful dresses, embroidered with gold threads and encrusted with gems. Among the halls illuminated by the light of numerous candles, Sarah admires her reflection in the mirror, which reflects her noble posture and incomparable smile. At this time, her sister, not inferior in grace and splendor, selects the most exquisite jewelry from the boxes to complement her image of royal beauty. In the evenings, the princess and her sister stroll through the magnificent gardens, hung with flowers of all shades of the rainbow, experiencing delight in the beauty of nature, enlivened by the light of the starry sky. Under the moonlight, they discuss their dreams and hopes, laugh and tell each other about their adventures, inspired by great legends and stories of valiant knights and brave princesses. Every corner of the castle is filled with magic and mystery, bringing to life the fantasies of Princess Sarah and her sister as they venture through dark dungeons exploring ancient relics and mysterious artifacts. The majestic walls of the castle are a refuge for two young princesses who, internally strong and noble, often gather in the library discussing ancient manuscripts and textbooks about magic and the art of ruling the kingdom. During evening banquets and receptions, Sarah and her sister, adorned with precious stones and silk fabrics, greet guests with awe and admiration. Thrilling tales of valor and intrigue follow Princess Sarah and her sister as they discover secrets and mysteries hidden in ancient chronicles and family archives. In the deepest recesses of their hearts, the princesses dream of a future where their courage and nobility will earn them respect and recognition in the history of their kingdom. Princess Sarah and the boy she rescued often took walks through the forest, exchanging stories and dreams, creating an irresistible bond between them despite the difference in their social status and expectations. Princess Sarah the boy and her sister Adele often walked through the castle park, enjoying the gentle spring wind and the whisper of foliage, discussing their dreams and plans for the future in solitude from the bustle of palace life. In the evenings, the girls gathered in the ancient garden surrounded by tall rose bushes and the lush greenery of ancient trees, where Sarah happily told the boy and her sister about her adventures and travels around the kingdom. The boy admired the princess's courage and her ability to bravely step into the path of danger to protect others, which he learned and inspired him every time they were together. She moved from one topic to another with ease, making each story fascinating and memorable, which her sister could not help but admire, who listened with interest and laughed imagining all the scenes described. From time to time, the girls gathered in the castle library to study ancient maps and legends of lost kingdoms, where they spent hours enthusiastically discussing possible expedition routes and making plans for the future, dreaming of one day going on their own adventures. They dreamed of discovering new lands and unexplored corners of their kingdom, imagining how they would be the first to set foot on these mysterious territories, explore their secrets, and bring home amazing stories and rare artifacts. Here, new discoveries and adventures awaited each time, inspiring the sisters to continue their research, because each new discovery brought them closer to realizing their dream of a great journey and discovering unexplored corners of their kingdom. Princess Sarah noted with great joy and an incredible sense of relief that the little finger she had saved had finally submitted to her caring efforts and attention, which brought a smile to her face. After this significant event, Princess Sarah felt that her mission was completed and she could safely return to her family to share the good news with everyone. In the evening, when the sun was already setting behind the horizon, Sarah went to her palace, where her sister Adele and the wise king were already waiting for her to enjoy dinner together and discuss what had happened. The king listened with pride to Sarah's story about her feat and, praising her for her courage and determination, emphasized how important it is to help others even in the most unexpected and difficult situations. The evening passed in a warm family atmosphere. There was laughter and stories about the past day at the table, and everyone was glad that Princess Sarah was able to cope with the difficulties and return home. The next morning, Princess Sarah woke up feeling that the day before had brought her not only satisfaction, but also a new understanding of how important the little things in life that may seem insignificant. She decided to dedicate this day to her sister Adele, helping her with various activities and tasks to strengthen their family bonds and show how important they are to each other. While walking through the garden, Adele shared her thoughts and dreams with Sarah, and Sarah listened carefully, realizing how valuable it is to have someone close to whom you can talk openly. Princess Sarah promised herself that she would always be by Adele's side, supporting her in difficult moments and rejoicing with her in moments of happiness, just like their mother did when they were little. In the evening, the whole family gathered again for dinner, and the king watched with joy as his daughters became closer and closer to each other, realizing that his family was the greatest treasure in his life. Princess Sarah sat at the table opposite her sister and talked about how she managed to save a little boy who had fallen into the river and how without hesitation she rushed to his aid. The sister listened attentively, admiring the courage of Sarah, who despite the danger showed real courage and determination without thinking about herself, just to save the life of a child in need. Sarah continued to talk about how the boy was very scared but still held tightly to her hand as they swam out of the water, and passers-by applauded and expressed gratitude for her action. At the table, the sister could not hide her pride in Sarah, because it is not every day that you hear a story of real heroism, especially from such a close person who was not afraid to risk his own life. Princess Sarah smiled, feeling the support and admiration of her sister, and understood that her action was not in vain, because thanks to her, the boy remained alive, and their conversation about this only strengthened their sisterly bond. Princess Sarah was standing at the window watching the castle and its surroundings, when a boy who was helping the servants approached her and asked why she was so happy today, to which Sarah replied with a smile. She explained that she was going to go shopping with her sister because she had managed to lose a couple of extra pounds, and now she felt much better and more confident than before, which made her very happy. The boy listened attentively. Admiration was visible in his eyes, and he asked the princess what exactly they were planning to buy, to which Sarah thought about it and said that they needed new outfits and decorations for the upcoming ball. She continued to talk about how much effort she had put in to lose weight and that now she was enjoying every moment because she used to have a hard time being overweight, but now everything has changed. The boy thanked Sarah for the interesting story and wished her successful shopping, after which she, still smiling, went to meet her sister, looking forward to the coming day and new shopping experiences. Princess Sarah, in a golden dress, stands in front of a black-haired boy in a castle, who glistens from the light coming through the stained glass windows, and asks him his name, smiling slightly. The boy, a little embarrassed, but with gratitude in his eyes, replies in a quiet voice that his name is Will, and that he is very glad that he was rescued from the dungeon where he had been kept for several weeks. Sarah listens carefully to his story, sitting on a velvet chair and holding a glass of fruity drink in her hands, feeling her heart fill with sympathy and a desire to help this boy. Will tells how he was captured, how he was kidnapped by robbers, and how he thought he would never see the sun again until a brave knight appeared and led him to the princess. Princess Sarah promises Will that from now on he will be under her protection and that she will do everything she can to help him find his family again, and gives him a small gold coin as a sign of her care. Will, clutching a gold coin in his hand, cannot hold back his tears of joy. He bows to the princess and thanks her for her kindness and generosity, feeling that his life is finally starting to get better. Sarah, seeing his tears, quietly says that he deserves a better life, and that she will personally ensure that his path is safe, and that he never suffers injustice again. The princess instructs her servants to prepare a room for Will in the castle, and treat him with care and attention, so that he feels at home, surrounded by warmth and support. The white-haired prince looks carefully at the envelopes laid out on the table in front of him, wondering what they might contain, and what news might change his life or affect his kingdom. The butler approaches him, an old and faithful servant who has always been by his side in difficult moments, and despite his silence, his presence always calmed the prince, giving him confidence. The prince, feeling the warmth and support of the butler, continues to reflect on the letters, imagining possible scenarios that could change with each piece of news, be it good news or troubling news. His gaze remains focused on the envelopes, each of which hides a secret that can bring either joy or sorrow, and at this moment, the prince feels the full weight of his responsibility. The butler, noticing the tension on the prince's face, gently puts his hand on his shoulder, as if reminding him that despite all the difficulties, he is not alone in his thoughts and concerns, and together they can cope with any challenges. Sarah and her sister met at the main entrance of the castle, where they exchanged joyful greetings and began to discuss where exactly they would go first, since there were many shops at their disposal. They decided to first visit a boutique that was famous for its unique outfits, and Sarah could already imagine them trying on a variety of dresses and choosing the most beautiful ones for the upcoming ball, which was to take place in a week. On the way, the sisters talked animatedly about the latest news in the castle, about new acquaintances and plans for the future. Each of them shared her thoughts and dreams, thereby creating a pleasant and warm atmosphere. When they arrived at the boutique, Sarah immediately spotted several dresses that she liked, and the sisters eagerly began trying them on, enjoying the process and discussing which outfit suited them best. After successful purchases, they decided to celebrate their new clothes in a cozy cafe where they enjoyed delicious desserts and aromatic tea, and each of them felt happy and satisfied with the time spent together. Sarah and her sister went on a luxurious shopping spree in the heart of the ancient city. Their shopping experience accompanied by the glitter of shop windows and the scent of fresh flowers, creating an impression of grace and leisurely luxury in this unique day full of joy and fond memories. The princess and Adele enjoyed the colorful boutique displays where glitz and luxury combined with the latest fashion trends, creating an atmosphere of excitement for every turn of their shopping journey. Princess Sarah helped Adele choose outfits, select accessories, and discuss the latest fashion trends, creating a fun and inspirational atmosphere during their shopping adventure. In one of the boutiques, they even tried on several fun outfits for fun, laughing and discussing each new look, until they chose the ones that perfectly reflected their inner world and unique style. Adele laughed until she cried when Sarah showed her different costumes and tried on unusual hats, spinning cheerfully in front of the mirror, making funny poses and coming up with funny comments, which further lifted the mood. They stopped for dinner at a cozy cafe, discussing their favorite moments of the day, making funny predictions about the future, enjoying delicious food, and laughing at all the funny situations that happened to them. When they returned to the carriage that was supposed to take them back to the castle, a downpour suddenly began, and they, wet to the skin, hurried to take shelter under the nearest canopy, waiting for the storm to subside, and it would be safe to continue their journey home. Adele laughed until she cried when Sarah showed her different costumes and tried on unusual hats while cheerfully spinning in front of the mirror and portraying funny scenes, which further lifted everyone's spirits and made the moment unforgettable. They stopped for dinner in a cozy cafe, discussing their favorite moments of the day, making funny predictions about the future, enjoying delicious dishes, and laughing at all the funny situations that happened to them during this time. After dinner, they walked through the park, enjoying the cool evening and pleasant conversation, discussing plans for the future, sharing memories from the past, and enjoying every minute together as the evening slowly turned into night. Princess Adele and Princess Sarah, sitting in a bejeweled carriage, eagerly discussed the upcoming adventures that awaited them over the horizon, surrounded by picturesque forests and fields. Suddenly, Adele, unable to hold back her tears, burst into tears, feeling the burden of worries that had accumulated during a long and difficult journey finally falling on her fragile shoulders. Sparks of gratitude shone in her eyes, and she said with emotion that she did not know how she would have coped without her sister, who was always there and supported her in the difficult and tense moments of their long and dangerous journey. Sarah, sensing her sister's grief, hugged her tightly and began to calm her down, whispering words of comfort and promising that they would go through all the trials together, as they always did in the past. Sarah's tears flowed down her cheeks, and unable to bear the depth of her feelings, she also began to cry, sharing her pain and sympathy with her sister at this touching moment. The princesses sat in an embrace, Their tears merged into one, and in this touching moment they sincerely prayed to become happy and successful sisters, supporting and inspiring each other in every step of their difficult journey. The princesses understood that their bond was stronger than any test, and at that moment they both realized that not a single difficult test could destroy their deep and inextricable bond. Each of them felt the support of the other despite the tears and worries, and this support was like a strong bridge connecting their hearts and helping to overcome all difficulty. Sarah whispered words of comfort while Adele tried to calm down, and each word from Sarah, filled with warmth and care, brought Adele relief and peace of mind. Time seemed to stop in this carriage, and all the surrounding events disappeared, leaving only this intimate and touching scene in which the princesses could completely focus on supporting each other. Lending her shoulder to her sister gave her a sense of security, which was so important at this moment, and Adele continued to thank her, her voice breaking with tears and deep emotions. Their tears were a symbol of deep love and understanding, reflecting the strength of their sisterly bond, which grew and strengthened with every moment spent together in this carriage. The carriage rolled along the road, and a warm atmosphere reigned inside it, filled with words of consolation and quiet confessions that brought Adele and Sarah even closer together. Adele and Sarah hugged each other tighter, feeling that together they could overcome anything, and this feeling gave them confidence that no difficulties could separate them. It was as if the carriage was their island of consolation, where they could hide from all the hardships of the world, find peace and solace in each other's arms, sharing their feelings and experiences. Their tears were not bitter, but rather cleansing, washing away all fears and doubts, and they knew that this night would remain in their hearts forever as a symbol of their inextricable connection. At that moment, they realized that their journey was not just a road to new adventures, but an important stage in strengthening their relationship, which became stronger with every kilometer passed. The kind words and support they shared with each other created a special atmosphere where each of them could feel safe and confident in the future. Outside the carriage window, the landscape slowly changed, but inside it seemed that time had stopped. And in this silence, their hearts beat in unison, reflecting harmony and mutual understanding. The princesses, hugging tightly, continued to share their dreams and plans, feeling that together they could overcome any obstacles and achieve all their goals. This night in the carriage, filled with revelation and consolation, will remain a vivid memory for them, reminding them that true strength lies in unity and mutual support. As the night gave way to dawn, the carriage slowly moved towards its destination, and the princesses, feeling renewed strength, knew that new, even more significant challenges awaited them. With the first rays of the sun, they saw the world around them filled with light and life, and it reminded them that even after the darkest nights, mornings come bringing new hopes and opportunities. The princesses understood that their support for each other would be the main support in the upcoming difficulties, and this awareness gave them confidence that together they could overcome anything. The mutual affection and respect they felt grew stronger with every moment they spent together, and this helped them feel not only like sisters, but also like best friends. Their journey was not just a path to new adventures, but also a symbol of their common purpose, which united them and inspired them to great achievements regardless of the obstacles along the way. When the carriage finally stopped at the castle gates, Princesses Adele and Sarah felt relieved, knowing that their long and difficult journey had come to an end, and now they were greeted with their home. The maids rushed to greet the princesses, happily helping them out of the carriage and take their luggage with them, greeting them with respect and care because they knew how important this day was. The sisters, feeling tired but happy, handed over their exquisite dresses to the maids, which became a symbol of their adventures and trials, passed together with the strong support of each other. Entering the castle, they felt the comfort and warmth of their home enveloping them, returning the feelings of calm and security that they so needed after long days on the road. The princesses knew that rest and recovery lay ahead of them, and they gratefully accepted the care of the maids, realizing that together they could overcome any difficulties and trials that might arise. After a warm welcome, the princesses headed to their rooms, where hot baths and fresh clothes awaited them. and they plunged into the water with pleasure, washing away the fatigue of the long journey. Memories of their adventures flashed through their minds, and Adele and Sarah discussed all the events they had experienced, laughing and remembering the brightest moments of their journey. Soon the maids joined them to help the princesses change clothes and prepare for dinner, and the sisters gratefully accepted the help, feeling truly loved and cared for. Over dinner in the main hall of the castle, the princesses told stories about their adventures, and every listener was admired by their courage and determination, which they showed in difficult moments. The night, filled with stories and laughter, was another testament to their strong sisterly bond, and the princesses knew that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sisters gathered in the garden for dinner, where a long table was decorated with flowers and candles, creating a cozy atmosphere, and the light evening breeze caressed their faces, filling the air with aromas. The garden was illuminated by the soft light of lanterns hung on the branches of the trees, and under their flickering, the princesses shared their thoughts and feelings, enjoying every minute of this special evening. The maids served delicious meals, and the sisters, surrounded by care and attention, enjoyed delicious food, discussing plans for the future and dreaming of new adventures that awaited them. Every moment of this dinner was filled with joy and gratitude for being together again, and their laughter echoed through the garden, mingling with the singing of birds and the rustling of leaves. This evening in the garden symbolized a new chapter in their lives, and the sisters knew that despite all the trials, their connection and love for each other would always support and inspire them. After dinner, Princess Sarah headed to her room, where the boy she had once saved was waiting for her, her heart fluttering with memories of that heroic day that changed their lives forever. She quietly entered the room, and the boy, seeing her, happily rushed to her, his eyes shining with gratitude and admiration, reminding her of how important her action was. Sarah sat down next to him, and they began to talk about past events, sharing their stories and experiences, and every moment of this conversation strengthened their special bond. The boy talked about how his life changed after that day, and Sarah felt proud that she was able to help him, seeing how he grew and became stronger thanks to her support. That night, Princess Sarah realized that their meeting was not a coincidence, and that her actions had a profound impact, bringing light and hope into the lives of those she saved and protected. Princess Sarah sat at the table in her room, lit by the soft light of candles, and looked at the boy who was enthusiastically reading a book, his eyes running over the pages with incredible speed. He, immersed in the plot, did not notice her gaze, and Sarah curiously tried to understand what captured his attention so much, because he was rarely so focused on reading. From time to time, he raised his head to meet her eyes, and they smiled at each other as if understanding something important but inexpressible that was happening between them at that moment. Sarah slowly reached for the cup of tea, trying not to break his concentration, and returned her gaze to the boy, who seemed to be absorbed in every line, not missing a word. Silence reigned in the room, broken only by the rustle of turning pages and quiet breathing, creating an atmosphere of comfort and intimacy, where each of them found their pleasure in this silent communication. Princess Sarah sat in her room having a calm conversation with the boy, who listened attentively to her stories about life in the palace, wondering at her stories about everyday affairs. They were laughing and discussing various topics when Sarah suggested they go outside to show him her favorite places in the garden, where she often spent time enjoying nature. The boy agreed, and they slowly walked towards the door, continuing their conversation about the various adventures she had experienced and how nature helped her find harmony. Going outside, they enjoyed the fresh air and the singing of birds. Their conversation continued, filling the silence of the garden with their cheerful voices and laughter, creating an atmosphere of friendship and warmth. Sarah showed the boy her favorite corners of the garden, explaining why each of them was dear to her, and he listened to her with interest, marveling at the beauty of nature and her ability to see beauty in little things. Princess Sarah and the boy walked through the forest, enjoying the green spaces and the light whisper of foliage. Their conversations about adventures and fairy tales complemented the atmosphere of magic around. They slowly moved along the path, passing through ancient trees and flowering bushes, and Sarah shared with him her memories of childhood filled with fairy tales and secrets. Time passed unnoticed, and although the forest became darker and darker as evening approached, They were not going to leave this secluded place, interrupting only for cheerful laughter and discussions. The boy was amazed at how Sarah knew every path and hidden corners of the forest, and they captivated by each other, and the surrounding nature did not feel tired from the long walk. They continued to wander through the forest, discovering new horizons and enjoying every moment in this magical place, not paying attention to the growing shadow and the evening cold which did not frighten them. Princess Sarah and the boy, not noticing how quickly the evening was thickening, approached a small lake hidden among the forest trees, where the moonlight reflected on the calm water, creating a magical atmosphere. They sat on the edge of the lake. Their conversations gradually died down, and in the silence, only the splashing of water and the rustling of the wind could be heard, and Sarah told the boy ancient legends associated with this mysterious place. The boy was fascinated by her stories, and how their reflection on the surface of the lake seemed part of a fairy tale world, and the sounds of the forest added even more magic to their night under the starry sky. Time passed, and despite the coolness of the night, they did not want to leave, feeling that they had found a special place where they could be themselves, away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. They continued to sit by the lake, enjoying the silence and beauty of the night forest, and although the night grew deeper, their hearts were full of joy and peace that this moment brought. When the calm of the night enveloped them even more tightly, Sarah and the boy noticed how fireflies began to flicker in the forest, creating a fabulous light around them, adding an atmosphere of even more magic. They watched the fireflies dance in the air, and Sarah, remembering ancient traditions, invited the boy to make a wish, when one of the fireflies illuminated their path, which caused him delight. The boy closed his eyes and, concentrating, made his wish, and Sarah, watching his sincere excitement, felt that this moment had become one of the most special in her life. After they exchanged wishes, Sarah suggested heading back to the house, but their journey was filled with happy conversations and laughter, because every moment seemed precious. Soon they returned to the palace garden, where the warm evening light and comfort awaited them, and despite their fatigue, neither Sarah nor the boy could forget about the night full of magic and friendship. The next day, Sarah and the boy, inspired by yesterday's adventure, decided to spend the morning in the garden, where they picked fruit and flowers together, enjoying the fresh air and sunshine. They chatted happily and collected a bouquet of wildflowers which the boy had picked himself, and Sarah shared with him secrets on how best to care for the plants so that they would please the eye for a long time. Time passed quickly, and as they filled their baskets with flowers and fruit, they felt their friendship strengthened and happily planned their next adventure together. For lunch, they went to the warm dining room, where a meal prepared from the fresh ingredients they had gathered awaited them, and they discussed their morning activity and enjoyed the taste of their work. After lunch, they decided to spend time in the game room, where by organizing mini tournaments and games, they again returned to childhood joys and fun moments, strengthening their warm relationship. After they finished playing in the game room, Sarah and the boy decided to play board games on the large table and plunged into a world of strategy and fun competitions. Laughing and discussing their moves, they spent time in pleasant company, enjoying every moment and immersing themselves in an exciting process that strengthened their connection and friendly cooperation. The game dragged on for several hours, and in the evening, when the sun began to set, they decided to finish it feeling that every moment was filled with joy and mutual understanding. After the games, they went to the garden, where for dinner they were offered dishes prepared from the fruits and vegetables they had collected, and discussing their impressions, enjoyed a delicious and homemade meal. That evening, sitting under the starry sky and discussing plans for the future, Sarah and the boy felt that their time together had become especially valuable, strengthening their friendship and creating fond memories. In the garden, where Sarah and the boy were enjoying the tranquility, her sister Adele suddenly appeared with the prince, and talk about the weather became the main topic of their conversation despite their young age. Adele, smiling, began to discuss how pleasant the warm sun was on this day, and the prince added that the clear sky and light wind were ideal for walking and relaxing in the fresh air. Sarah, continuing the conversation, noted that such a day would be ideal for a picnic, and they all agreed that it was worth taking advantage of every moment of good weather to spend time outside. The prince, in turn, suggested organizing a little outdoor game to make the day even more interesting, and Adele happily supported the idea, adding that some fun activities should be included. They continued to discuss the details of future entertainment, and enjoyed friendly communication, feeling how the pleasant atmosphere and ease of conversation created a pleasant and warm impression of their meeting. After they had agreed on the plan for the day, Sarah, Adele, the prince, and the boy began to look for a suitable place in the garden for a picnic, and games, discussing where it would be more convenient and enjoyable to spend time. Adele suggested that they sit on a green meadow under a large tree, where there was enough shade and space for everyone, and they quickly agreed to this proposal, starting preparations for a picnic. The prince and the boy set about collecting the necessary items for games and entertainment, while Sarah and Adele set up a cozy corner for eating, laying out the blanket and preparing treats. Once everything was ready, they settled down on the blanket, enjoying the delicious food and discussing the plan for the upcoming games. Their conversations filled with laughter and joy, creating a festive atmosphere. The day continued in a cheerful and carefree atmosphere where games and picnics became the main activities, and they all felt that the time had been spent with pleasure and in good company. Halfway through the picnic, when they were all sitting on the blanket enjoying the treats, Sarah suggested they start with a fun game to add a little activity to their outdoor experience. The prince, who took the initiative, suggested playing team games such as relay races and tug-of-war, which aroused everyone's enthusiasm and desire to have an active time. Adele and the boy gladly supported the proposal and quickly divided into teams, preparing for the first competition, their faces glowing with excitement and anticipation of a fun time. Games and competitions filled with laughter and friendly competition continued for several hours, creating a sense of celebration and strengthening their friendship and mutual understanding. At the end of the games, they returned to the blanket, where under the warm sunshine they discussed their impressions of the games and planned their next adventures, ending the day in a great mood. In the evening, when the sun began to set, Sarah and her friends decided to go for a walk in the garden to enjoy the last minutes of daylight and once again admire the surrounding nature. They slowly moved along the paths, discussing which of the games played today they liked the most, and enjoying the warm evening air, which was filled with the smells of flowers and freshness. The prince suggested that they find hidden corners of the garden that they had not yet explored, and following his suggestion, they soon found themselves at a small pond surrounded by beautiful flowers and green plants. Once at the pond, they decided to do a little photo shoot to capture their moments of happiness and joy, creating fun and memorable photos with the evening garden in the background. Finally, as night fell over the garden, they returned to the main picnic spot, where under the warm glow of lanterns they discussed plans for the future and promised each other to spend time together again. At dinner in the dining room, Princess Sarah, Princess Adele, and the prince sat at a large table decorated with candles and fresh flowers, discussing their day and sharing their impressions of the picnic. Adele, noticing that the table was laden with exquisite dishes, expressed her admiration for the culinary talents of the chefs and happily tried each of the proposed delicacies, not forgetting her compliments. The prince, taking on the role of moderator, suggested discussing plans for the future and suggesting ideas for new adventures, which aroused everyone's interest and became the basis for a lively discussion. Sarah, listening to the discussions and enjoying the evening meal, suggested having another picnic but in a different place to diversify their pastime and add new experiences. The evening continued in a pleasant atmosphere filled with laughter and joy, and when dinner came to an end, they all agreed that the time spent together had been especially valuable and memorable. After dinner, when the table was cleared, Princess Sarah, Princess Adele, and the prince decided to take a walk through the park in the moonlight to enjoy the fresh air and end the evening in a cozy atmosphere. The walk began in silence, their footsteps barely audible on the green carpeted road surface, and gradually conversations resumed as they discussed the most memorable moments of the day. Adele, curious, suggested making a short stop at the fountain to listen to the sound of the water and admire the night lighting which was reflected in the brilliant streams. Princess Sarah supported the proposal and noticed how the lighting gave a special charm to the evening park, and the prince, unable to resist, suggested singing a song to add romance to the night. They enjoyed the moment, listening to tunes and discussing ideas for future adventures, feeling that the night in the park was the perfect end to their wonderful day, filled with laughter and pleasant communication. The walk continued under the starry sky, and they soon reached a picturesque bridge over a small stream where they stopped to enjoy the tranquility and beauty of the surrounding nature. Princess Adele noticed that the moonlight created magical reflections in the water and suggested taking some photographs to capture the atmosphere they so treasured. The prince, inspired by the proposal, suggested taking pictures as a group and separately in order to preserve the memories of how pleasant they spent the evening together in this wonderful place. Sarah, smiling, supported the idea and took an active part in the photo shoot, filling the photos with laughter and joy that reflected their friendly communication and warm relationship. When the calm of the night once again enveloped the park, they headed back to the palace, discussing plans for the next day and promising each other to repeat such a wonderful walk in the future. The evening walk ended with a return to the palace, where they were greeted by soft light from the windows and a cozy interior that immediately reminded them of the comfort and warmth of home. Princess Sarah invited everyone to have a cup of hot chocolate before bed, and they gathered in one of the cozy rooms to enjoy warm drinks and discuss the day. Adele, sitting in a chair by the fireplace, remarked how pleasant it was to end the day in such company and suggested sharing interesting stories to create even more pleasant memories. The prince, smiling, supported the idea and began to tell fascinating tales of adventures and miracles, which captured the attention of everyone present and made the evening even more magical. When night enveloped the palace and all preparations were completed, they, thanking each other for a wonderful day, went to their rooms, promising to meet again for new adventures. The next morning, as the sun began to shine through the windows, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele gathered in the breakfast room, discussing how much fun they had had the previous day. The prince, joining them at the table, suggested they go for a morning walk around the palace grounds to enjoy the fresh air and see how nature awakens after the night. Everyone happily agreed, and after breakfast went for a walk along picturesque paths surrounded by flowering gardens and green fields, filling the morning with positivity and joy. During their walk, they found a small pond where they were able to watch waterfowl and play games, which again reminded them of the fun times they spent together. Walking back to the palace, they discussed plans for the coming days and promised each other not to miss the opportunity to spend time together to create even more unforgettable memories. Returning to the palace, Princess Sarah, Princess Adele, and the prince discovered that their meeting with children from neighboring villages was planned for that day, which added even more excitement to their plans. They quickly prepared for the visit by making sure everything they needed to meet the children was ready, including treats, games, and gifts to make the day special and unforgettable. When the children arrived at the palace, they were greeted with cordiality, and Princess Sarah suggested that they begin with exciting games in the fresh air, which immediately attracted the attention and delight of the children. Princess Adele and the prince organized craft and painting workshops to allow the children to express their creativity, and soon the palace was filled with laughter and joy. At the end of the day, after all the games and activities, they organized a small celebration with treats where the children and their owners shared their impressions, ending the day cheerfully and in a great mood. As the celebration came to an end, Princess Sarah, Princess Adele, and the prince felt that the day had been a success, and they thanked the children for their participation and the joy and laughter they brought. The children, happily saying goodbye, received small souvenirs that Princess Adele and the prince had prepared in advance so that they could take with them a piece of the magic created on this day. After the children had left, the palace was filled with silence again, and Sarah, Adele, and the prince discussed how nice it was to spend time together and how they could make such events regular. They decided that they would organize more such meetings in the future to strengthen ties with the surrounding villages and make life in their kingdom even brighter and more joyful. In the evening, after a busy day, they gathered for dinner, sharing their impressions of the holiday and discussing new ideas, feeling that the day had brought them a lot of joy and satisfaction. The next morning, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele, inspired by the successful celebration, decided to hold a special morning tea for all their close friends and family members. They prepared a table with a variety of sweet and savory treats, decorated it with flowers and candles to create a cozy and festive atmosphere for the upcoming meeting. As the guests began to arrive, conversations and laughter filled the room as each of them shared their impressions of the holiday, creating another warm and joyful meeting. Princess Adele proposed a small performance with the participation of all those present, where everyone could show their talents, which caused general approval and delight. At the end of the day, as the evening lights began to twinkle, Everyone felt that it had been another wonderful day filled with laughter and camaraderie that they would definitely want to repeat. The next day, after all the guests had left and the palace was once again quiet, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele discussed the importance of maintaining such traditions and creating special moments for everyone. They decided that the next step would be to organize a big celebration on Kingdom Day, which would unite all the inhabitants and make everyone feel like they were part of something important. The prince, supporting the idea, proposed creating a working group of close friends and advisors to plan all the details of the holiday, including activities, decorations, and entertainment for guests. Sarah and Adele began making a list of tasks that needed to be completed to make the holiday unforgettable, and they eagerly began implementing their plans. Over the following weeks, the palace gradually became the center of preparation for the upcoming event, with each day bringing new ideas and plans in preparation for the kingdom's great celebration. As Kingdom Day approached, Sarah and Adele worked diligently on the final preparations, coordinating with the task force and testing every element of the plan to ensure everything went perfectly. Princess Adele organized several rehearsals for performances and shows to ensure that all participants were ready for the holiday, and the prince took on the task of decorating the palace and the area around it. Every corner of the palace was decorated with bright garlands and flowers, and in the main square where the main holiday was planned, a stage was installed and a place was prepared for games and entertainment events. Sarah and Princess Adele held several meetings with local craftsmen and artists to ensure that the decor and decoration would fit the theme and create a truly festive atmosphere. On Kingdom Day, the palace and surrounding areas were full of guests enjoying the festive atmosphere, and the entire team working on the preparations felt proud of the work accomplished and the success of the event. At first light of day, the celebration began with a grand opening as Princess Sarah and Princess Adele greeted guests in the main square, filling the air with joy and excitement. Guests enthusiastically participated in the various competitions and games organized for them, and laughter and applause were heard everywhere, creating an atmosphere of fun and friendly communication. The prince, as a surprise, set off a magnificent fireworks display that lit up the night sky and left everyone speechless, emphasizing the importance and splendor of the holiday. Sarah, watching the joyful faces of the guests, felt that all the effort and preparation had been worth it, and her heart was filled with pride for creating such an unforgettable event. In the evening, as the celebration came to an end, everyone gathered in the central square to thank each other for their participation, and they knew that this day would remain in their memory as one of the most wonderful. The next day, as the celebration came to an end, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele hosted a cozy breakfast for the entire team to show their gratitude for their hard work and dedication. Over breakfast, they discussed the details of the holiday, sharing their impressions and feedback, and also began to plan how to improve the events and make them even more memorable in the future. The prince, noticing how happy everyone was at the successful completion of the celebration, suggested organizing such events on a regular basis to maintain contact with the residents and strengthen friendships. Sarah and Adele, agreeing with the proposal, began to think about ideas and themes for future holidays, planning to include new elements and activities to surprise and delight guests every time. As time passed, the palace was once again filled with peace and quiet, and the team, having completed their tasks, rested with satisfaction, knowing that they had created something truly special and worthy of memories. Shortly after the holiday, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele decided to spend a few days in solitude to recuperate and enjoy the tranquility of nature away from the bustle of the palace. They chose a secluded corner of the forest, for this where they built a cozy house, and equipped it with all the amenities to create ideal conditions for rest and relaxation. The time spent in the forest was filled with walks along picturesque paths, evening gatherings around the fire, and conversations under the starry sky, which allowed them to restore their inner balance. Princess Adele, inspired by nature, began working on new ideas for decorating and planning future events to add more creativity to their projects. Upon returning to the palace, Sarah and Adele felt that the rest had helped them recharge their batteries, and with renewed vigor they began preparing for future events full of inspiration and enthusiasm. After returning to the palace, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele began working actively on new projects inspired by their time spent in the forest and eager to bring fresh ideas to their work. They held a series of meetings with the team discussing plans to improve palace events and introduce new traditions that could strengthen ties with the locals and add fun to their lives. The prince proposed creating an annual festival dedicated to local culture and art, which would allow residents to show off their talents and traditions, as well as attract the attention of tourists. Adele proposed organizing a series of workshops and exhibitions to provide an opportunity for everyone to learn new skills and experience local crafts, which sparked widespread interest. With each new plan and idea, they increasingly strengthened their ties with the outside world, making the palace a center of culture and joy, and looked forward to the implementation of their ambitious projects. As preparations began for the new festival, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele began inviting local craftsmen and artists to participate in events and demonstrate their skills. The prince took charge of logistics and decorations to ensure the best possible experience for participants and guests, creating an atmosphere that reflected the richness of local culture. Together they began planning a variety of activities, including musical performances, theater productions, and cooking classes to cater to a variety of audiences. In anticipation of the festival, the palace turned into a preparation center, where final preparations were made, and participants actively prepared for their performances and exhibitions, creating a real celebration of creativity. When the day of the festival arrived, the palace and its surroundings were full of lively fun and activity. Everyone was enjoying the festive atmosphere, and Sarah and Adele felt proud of the work done and the success of the event. Throughout the festival, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele enjoyed watching guests immerse themselves in a variety of activities, from exhibitions to workshops, and felt that their efforts brought joy. The craftsmen and artists invited to participate enthusiastically displayed their works and shared their knowledge, creating a unique atmosphere and promoting cultural exchange. The prince, ensuring that everything went according to plan, coordinated the work of all teams and ensured that every element of the celebration was in perfect condition, which contributed to the success of the event. In the evening after a busy day, Princess Adele organized a special performance, where those gathered could enjoy fireworks, music, and dancing, ending the day on a high note. As the celebration came to an end, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele gathered together to discuss the success of the festival, the joy of the guests, and plan for the future full of satisfaction from the work done. After the festival ended, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele held a meeting with participants and organizers to discuss the outcome of the event and gather feedback on what could be improved in the future. All those present expressed gratitude for the excellent event, noting that the celebration was full of bright moments and positive emotions, which strengthened their connection with the palace and with each other. Princess Adele offered to organize regular meetings with participants to maintain communication and collaboration, and the prince promised to continue to provide excellent organization and support for events. Inspired by the festival's success, Sarah and Adele began developing new ideas for future events, including cultural exchanges with neighboring kingdoms and the development of new entertainment formats. Over time, the palace became quiet again, and with the conclusion of a successful festival, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele felt that they had taken a great step forward in strengthening their relationships with those around them. In the following weeks, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele continued to work on new projects, applying the feedback received and refining their plans for future events and celebrations. They also began planning visits to neighboring kingdoms to establish new cultural connections and study how holidays and cultural events were organized there that could inspire them. The prince organized meetings with local leaders and experts to discuss opportunities for cooperation and improvement of public life, as well as increasing residents' participation in palace events. Sarah and Adele spent several days creating new designs for the palace, including ideas for improving infrastructure and programs for children and families to make their space even more welcoming. Soon, the palace came to life again, preparing for new beginnings, and Princess Sarah and Princess Adele, full of energy and inspiration, looked forward to the implementation of their plans and further successes. Princess Sarah and Princess Adele, continuing their efforts to strengthen relations with neighboring kingdoms, began organizing cultural exchanges to broaden their horizons and inspiration for their projects. They initiated a series of visits for delegations from different countries, organizing ceremonial receptions and tours of the palace, where guests could become acquainted with local traditions and art. The prince took charge of coordinating the logistics for each visit to ensure the smooth running of the events and create an atmosphere of comfort and friendliness for all participants. Princess Adele has developed educational programs, including workshops and lectures to deepen cultural understanding between peoples and provide unique opportunities for knowledge sharing. With each new visit and event, the palace became an increasingly important center of cultural exchange and cooperation, and Sarah and Adele felt proud of their efforts and achievements in strengthening international ties. Soon, Princess Sarah and Princess Adele organized an annual cultural festival, which included exchanges of exhibitions and gastronomic events, attracting the attention of many guests from different countries. During the festival, numerous tents and pavilions were set up on the palace square, where works of art and culinary masterpieces were displayed to create an atmosphere of celebration and cultural exchange. The prince, in order to ensure the success of the event, organized the work of volunteers and staff, which made it possible to cope with the large number of visitors and create comfortable conditions for everyone. Princess Adele held master classes and lectures inviting prominent experts from various fields, which gave festival participants the opportunity to learn more about the culture and traditions of different peoples. The festival became a significant event in the cultural life of the region, strengthening ties between peoples and leaving vivid impressions on all participants, and Princess Sarah and Princess Adele felt satisfaction from their achievements. Princess Sarah and Princess Adele, full of energy and new ideas, began to prepare for the next major event, an international cultural forum that was supposed to unite representatives of different countries. They initiated efforts to create unique exhibitions and presentations that would reflect the culture and art of each country invited to the forum to ensure deep and diverse representation. The prince took on the task of organizing logistics, including transportation and accommodation of delegations, as well as coordinating all technical aspects to ensure that the forum was held at the highest level. Princess Adele actively worked on a program of events including public lectures, panel discussions, and cultural exchanges, which contributed to the exchange of knowledge and strengthened international cooperation. As the date of the forum approached, the palace again became a center of activity, and Sarah and Adele looked forward to seeing their efforts and preparations translate into a successful and memorable event that united cultures. On the opening day of the International Cultural Forum, the palace was decorated with flags and colors of all participating countries, creating an atmosphere of celebration and unity and attracting the attention of numerous guests. Princess Sarah and Princess Adele welcomed delegations to the opening ceremony where they presented the forum program and expressed gratitude for the participation of all representatives of different cultures and countries. The prince coordinated all aspects of the forum from technical support to transportation to ensure that all events ran smoothly and guests had a comfortable stay. Princess Adele delivered a series of engaging and educational lectures and panel discussions that generated great interest and discussion among participants, promoting the exchange of ideas and cultural interaction. The forum ended with a closing ceremony at which Princess Sarah and Princess Adele thanked everyone for their participation and successful cooperation, and the palace was once again filled with a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction from the results achieved. Princess Sarah and the boy were strolling through the garden when they stopped in front of a magnificent flower bed where bright flowers of various shades were blooming under the sun's rays, creating a breathtaking view. The boy, enthusiastically looking at each plant, asked questions about what flowers grow here and how to care for them, and Princess Sarah happily shared her knowledge and stories about each species. They continued their walk through the garden, heading towards the blooming greenhouse, where exotic plants and rare varieties of flowers attracted attention and created an atmosphere of magic and surprise. Princess Sarah and the boy discussed different ways to use flowers to create bouquets and decorations, and also came up with new ideas for decorating the garden, which made their walk even more exciting. At the end of the tour, enjoying the tranquility of the garden and the colorful flowers, Princess Sarah and the boy returned to the castle with smiles on their faces, leaving behind them a pleasant memory of their time together. Princess Sarah, seeing a beautiful field of blooming tulips, noticed how the boy gently took her hand, and thinking it was a gesture of friendship, felt warmth and joy from their communication. The boy, pressing the princess's hand to his, did not say a word, focusing on the beauty of the surrounding flowers, and enjoying the moment which was special and important for him. Princess Sarah, immersed in thoughts about flowers and their meaning, did not notice that for the boy, this gesture was more significant than a simple manifestation of friendship, and continued to smile. As they approached a pond surrounded by blooming lotuses, the boy looked at the princess, hoping that her reaction to his action would be as positive as his feelings for her. Princess Sarah, feeling comfortable and at peace in the boy's presence, was unaware of his true feelings and continued to enjoy their time together in the garden, unaware of the hidden meaning of his gesture. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy walking through the garden suddenly noticed the prince, who was also enjoying a walk among the greenery and flowering plants, immersed in his thoughts. The prince, seeing them, stopped with curiosity because he had never met a black-haired boy before, and his attention was attracted by this unexpected guest. Princess Sarah noticed the prince looking closely at the boy and realized that perhaps the prince did not know about his existence, and tried to explain the situation to avoid awkwardness. The boy, feeling the prince's gaze on him, was a little embarrassed, but nodded discreetly as a sign of respect, hoping that his presence would not cause inconvenience for both of them. The prince, smiling, approached them, and having learned about the boy, who turned out to be a friend of Princess Sarah, happily invited them to continue their walk together, which allowed all three to enjoy time in the garden. Princess Sarah, the prince, and the boy continued to walk through the garden, enjoying conversation about the different types of flowers and vegetation they encountered along the way, exchanging impressions. The prince, showing interest in Sarah's new friend, asked the boy about his hobbies and interests, and he, a little shy, talked about his love for botany and plant research. Princess Sarah, noticing how the prince and the boy quickly hit it off, felt joy that her friends could bond and share their time together in such a beautiful place. They approached a small bridge spanning a picturesque stream and stopped to admire the reflection of flowers in the water, discussing plans for the future and possible adventures. At the end of the walk, when the sun began to set, the prince, Princess Sarah, and the boy, satisfied with a pleasant pastime, returned to the castle where a cozy evening awaited them. After the party at the castle, Princess Sarah and the prince noticed that the boy, immersed in conversations with other guests, looked especially happy, and their joy was sincere. The prince, noticing that the boy had become an important part of their social circle, invited him to become a constant friend and ally, and this offer was met with enthusiasm and gratitude. Princess Sarah and the prince decided to take another stroll through the gardens the next morning to continue their communication and strengthen the friendship they felt was just beginning to develop. The boy, feeling accepted and appreciated, began to talk about his dreams and plans related to the study of nature and botany, and the prince and princess listened to him attentively. Soon after, as the night settled into the castle's tranquility, Princess Sarah and the prince decided that their friendship with the boy would become an important part of their lives, and they began planning new activities together. Princess Sarah and the boy continued their conversation with the prince, where the boy, although sharing his dreams of botany and exploration, maintained an inner doubt and distrust of the prince. The prince, noticing this, tried to gain the boy's trust by showing interest in his hobbies and asking questions about his plans, but the boy remained wary, noticing a lack of sincerity. Princess Sarah, sensing the tension between the prince and the boy, tried to soften the atmosphere, switching the conversation to neutral topics in order to ease the situation and create a more comfortable environment. The boy, although remaining cautious, began to notice that the prince was sincerely interested in his hobbies and was trying to understand him better, but was not yet ready to fully open up. Gradually, during the conversation and spending time together, the boy began to feel that the prince really wanted to become a friend, and this gradually changed his attitude, although completely. Princess Sarah noticed that the boy, although he began to slowly trust the prince, was still wary, and sometimes avoided direct gaze, which indicated his inner doubt. The prince, realizing that it takes time to gain full trust, became more attentive and patient, inviting the boy to participate in various activities to strengthen their friendship. The boy began to notice that the prince was really interested in his hobbies, especially when the prince began to actively listen and ask questions about his favorite plants and plans for the future. Princess Sarah kept them connected by participating in the conversation and suggesting interesting ideas for joint projects to create a more relaxed atmosphere and promote bonding. Gradually, thanks to the prince's patience and sincerity, the boy began to feel more comfortable, and although complete trust had not yet been achieved, he began to open up and share his thoughts. Gradually spending more and more time together, the prince and the boy began to find common interests, which contributed to the improvement of their relationship, and Princess Sarah happily watched this process. The prince, showing genuine interest, suggested organizing a joint exploration of the forest so that the boy could show the prince his favorite plants and discuss his knowledge of nature in a living context. The boy, feeling supported and sincere, agreed to the proposal and became more open, sharing not only his knowledge but also stories from his childhood, which strengthened their connection. Princess Sarah, seeing how their relationship was beginning to improve, suggested spending the evening together at the table discussing the past day and plans for the future in order to bring them even closer together. Eventually, through joint effort and patience, the prince and the boy became good friends. And although the boy still needed time, he began to trust the prince and open up to him more. The next day, Princess Sarah suggested spending the morning in the garden where the boy could show the prince his favorite plants, and the prince watched with interest their beauty and characteristics. The boy, seeing the prince's sincere interest, began to talk about the rare plants that he found in the forest and shared his knowledge of how they could be useful for science and medicine. The prince, impressed by the boy's passion, suggested doing a research project together in which they could study plants and collect data, which caused a wave of delight in the boy. Princess Sarah, supporting this idea, proposed organizing a small research center in the castle, where the boy and the prince could work on their projects and share the results with others. Gradually, through teamwork and the support of the princess, the prince and the boy not only became good friends, but also developed several successful projects, strengthening their mutual respect and trust. With a new project, the prince and the boy plunged into the study of rare plants, and every day brought new discoveries and interesting results which they discussed and analyzed with pleasure. Princess Sarah, seeing how passionate they were at work, decided to organize an exhibition of their research to showcase their achievements and inspire others to explore nature and science. At the exhibition, the boy and the prince presented their findings and shared stories about how they came to their discoveries, which aroused great interest and recognition among the guests. Inspired by the success of the exhibition, the prince and the boy began planning new projects and experiments, discussing ideas and developing plans to expand their research. Princess Sarah was proud of how her friends became successful and contented, and was happy to see how their friendships and shared interests contributed to the personal growth and development of each of them. Princess Sarah woke up early in the morning when the sun was just beginning to rise above the horizon and headed to the classroom where the teacher was already waiting for her, ready for classes. The teacher, noticing her determination, began the lesson by discussing complex philosophical concepts and historical events that required concentration and deep analysis from the princess. During class, Princess Sarah actively participated in discussions, asking questions and taking notes, which confirmed her desire for knowledge and desire to succeed in her studies. After several hours of intense learning, the teacher offered Sarah a break, during which they discussed her current progress and identified new goals for further development. Returning to her room after class, Princess Sarah felt satisfied with her work and ready for new challenges, eager to apply what she had learned in her daily life. After her morning lessons, Princess Sarah headed to her magic teacher, where they continued to study complex spells and ancient enchantments, which required her full concentration and perseverance. Studying with the master of magic was difficult and demanding, but the princess absorbed knowledge with enthusiasm, striving to master the art of magic, which could help her in the future. Having completed her magic classes, Sarah headed to the clearing where her sister Adele and the boy, with whom she always felt free and joyful, were already waiting for her. In a clearing surrounded by green trees and flowers, Princess Sarah happily told Adele and the boy about her latest educational successes and shared her plans for the future. The evening in the clearing was spent in pleasant conversation and fun games, where Sarah, Adele, and the boy enjoyed each other, and nature strengthening their friendships and creating unforgettable memories. Princess Sarah, Adele, and the boy continued to have fun in the clearing, discussing their adventures and plans, enjoying the bright colors of the sunset, which painted the skies in warm shades. Sarah and Adele enthusiastically told the boy about their new knowledge and magical abilities that Princess Sarah had acquired, and he listened carefully and asked questions that interested him. The boy in turn shared his stories and plans for the future, which included traveling and exploring different lands, which aroused great admiration and interest among his friends. Time passed unnoticed in the clearing, and evening came too quickly. Friends decided that such moments of happiness and friendship should be appreciated and spent more time together. When the sun finally disappeared below the horizon, Princess Sarah and her companions returned to the castle full of positive emotions and charged with energy for new exciting adventures. The next morning, Princess Sarah woke up early and decided to test out her new magical skills that she had been learning in class. Her desire to become a better person and help others inspired her. As Sarah trained, she noticed her magic becoming more confident and accurate. This brought her satisfaction and confidence that her labors were not in vain. Soon she met Adele and the boy who came to support her. They saw how hard she was trying and decided to join her training so they could spend time together. Learning turned into a fun activity where everyone could try their hand at learning something new, sharing knowledge and skills which strengthened their friendships. In the evening, after a successful day, Princess Sarah, Adele, and the boy had a small picnic in the garden where they discussed plans for the future and enjoyed the fresh air and communication with each other. Princess Sarah, having learned about the invitation from the red-haired princess, gladly accepted it and headed to the beautiful palace where a cozy tea party and a good-natured meeting awaited them. When she entered the hall, she was greeted by the princess with warm smiles and kind words that immediately made the atmosphere relaxed and friendly. Sarah felt at home. The tea party was spent in pleasant conversation, where the princess and her guests discussed various topics, exchanged stories about their countries, and found much in common in their interests and views. The red-haired princess turned out to be not only kind, but also a very interesting person who knows how to create an atmosphere of comfort and trust, which allowed Sarah to relax and enjoy the meeting. At the end of the evening, after a fascinating conversation and delicious tea, both princesses promised each other to keep in touch and continue to develop their new friendship in the future. After Princess Sarah said goodbye to the red-haired princess, she returned to her palace full of positive impressions and new plans for the future. That evening, sitting in her room and thinking about having a good time over a cup of tea, Sarah felt that she had taken another important step towards expanding her horizons. The next day, in a conversation with her sister Adele, Princess Sarah shared her impressions of her new friend and how important it was for her to meet such a warm and open person. Adele, seeing how happy her sister was, gladly supported her desire to continue building friendly relations and offered to plan the next visits and meetings together. Soon after, Princess Sarah and Adele began discussing how they could organize their time to include even more meetings with interesting people and events. Princess Sarah and Adele continued planning their meetings, deciding that next week they would visit another kingdom to get to know the local traditions and culture. In preparation for the trip, they carefully studied the map, planning a route that would include visits to sites important to the culture of the new region. Princess Sarah was excited by the prospect of new acquaintances and adventures, and Adele was happy to help her organize, adding details and ideas for a more eventful program. Before leaving, both princesses discussed how important it was that their visit would be enjoyable, as well as educational, and they were keen to create a positive impression on the locals. On the day of departure, Princess Sarah and Adele were full of anticipation and joy, ready for new discoveries, and eagerly awaited what surprises this exciting visit would bring them. Princess Sarah and Adele arrived in the new kingdom where they were greeted with great respect and cordiality, escorted to a magnificent palace, which was decorated in honor of their visit. While Princess Sarah admired the architecture and details of the palace, Adele exchanged pleasantries with local representatives, discussing cultural characteristics and traditions to better understand the environment. In the evening, they enjoyed a banquet featuring gourmet cuisine and a variety of local delicacies, while Princess Sarah and Adele took part in traditional dancing while enjoying the festive atmosphere. During the dinner, accompanied by music and fun, Princess Sarah and Adele shared their impressions with local residents interested in their customs and history, which contributed to further rapprochement. The next day, after a rich cultural exchange, Princess Sarah and Adele went on a tour of the area to enjoy the natural beauty and take unforgettable photographs. The next day, after the excursion, Princess Sarah and Adele went to the famous garden where they discovered rare plants and flowers that were not only beautiful, but also had medicinal properties. While they walked around the garden, local gardeners shared with them the secrets of caring for plants, and Princess Sarah listened with interest, writing down notes that could be useful to her in the future. On this day, they also visited the local market, where they bought unique souvenirs and met artisans who created skillful products from local materials, admiring their craftsmanship. In the evening, Princess Sarah and Adele took part in a traditional celebration where locals performed songs and dances, while Princess Sarah and Adele were also invited on stage to show off their skills. At the end of the day, tired but happy, Princess Sarah and Adele returned to their castle, where they discussed their entire experience and planned what exactly they would do the next day to make the most of their stay. Princess Sarah, returning to the castle after an eventful day, could not forget about the new acquaintances and impressions she had received and was considering how best to apply them in her future plans. The next morning, she and Adele went for a walk through the city's historical sites, where they encountered ancient buildings and monuments that tell of the rich heritage of the region and its cultural significance. During the excursion, they came across an ancient library which contained rare books and manuscripts that attracted the attention of Princess Sarah for their historical and literary significance. Upon returning to the hotel, Princess Sarah spent the evening discussing with Adele and local residents ideas for future projects and events that could strengthen ties between their countries and cultures. In the evening, tired but happy, Princess Sarah and Adele gathered on the castle terrace, enjoying the view of the sunset and thinking about what amazing adventures awaited them ahead on this exciting journey. Princess Sarah and Adele were walking around the castle, enjoying the warm, sunny day and discussing plans for the future, when they suddenly noticed a strange glow from around the corner of the ancient tower. They came closer and saw an old stone with mysterious symbols, which was clearly there for a reason, and Sarah felt that this place contained some important secret that needed to be revealed. Adele suggested that they return to the castle and ask for help from a magic mentor who might be able to help them understand the meaning of these symbols and figure out why they began to glow. Returning to the castle, they found their teacher, who immediately agreed to help, and taking with him an old book of spells, headed with the princesses to a mysterious stone surrounded by ancient legends. The teacher studied the stone for a long time, reading spells and comparing the symbols with the images in the book, and finally announced that it was an ancient artifact capable of opening a portal to forgotten worlds if the required spell was cast correctly. Princess Sarah and Adele were strolling around the castle, enjoying the warm, sunny day, when the red-haired princess, known for her politeness and knowledge of etiquette, noticed them and made her way towards them. As the red-haired princess approached, she smiled welcomingly and offered to discuss manners and etiquette, knowing that it was an important part of their royal life and duties, which piqued the interest of Sarah and Adele. They began a conversation about the rules of behavior at court, exchanged opinions and experiences. The red-haired princess told stories from her life, emphasizing the importance of good manners and courtesy. Princess Sarah, listening with enthusiasm, learned a lot and decided that she would study harder and apply this knowledge in her daily life in order to be worthy of her royal role and an example to others. Adele was also impressed by the stories and suggested holding regular meetings to continue discussing these topics, improving their skills, and strengthening the friendship between them, which the red-haired princess happily agreed to. Princess Sarah, Adele, and the red-haired princess continued to discuss the importance of manners and etiquette, citing examples from their own lives to highlight how necessary it is in their daily royal activities. The red-haired princess told a story about how respect for etiquette helped her establish diplomatic relations with a neighboring kingdom, which made a strong impression on Sarah and Adele. Princess Sarah, encouraged by what she heard, promised herself to be more attentive to manners, realizing that they help build respect and trust in society, and discussed plans with her sister to improve them. Adele proposed that etiquette lessons be held at the castle for all the courtiers, believing that this would help improve the general behavior and atmosphere in the kingdom, which was supported by the red-haired princess. At the end of their conversation, they agreed to organize regular meetings to continue to learn from each other and develop their skills, strengthening their friendship and creating harmony in their environment. Princess Sarah Adele and the red-haired princess, inspired by their plans, decided to throw a ball in honor of new beginnings, to demonstrate to all the courtiers the importance of manners and etiquette in their society. They began preparing for the ball, choosing the best outfits and decorations, paying special attention to detail, so that each guest felt important and understood the importance of the upcoming event. At the ball, Princess Sarah and Adele presented their ideas for regular etiquette lessons, receiving approval and support from everyone present, which strengthened their resolve to continue the work they had started. The red-haired princess, admiring the energy and determination of the sisters, proposed organizing joint events between the kingdoms to exchange experiences and develop cultural ties. The evening ended with a formal dance where each of the princesses demonstrated grace, setting an example of how manners and etiquette can enrich and beautify their lives, creating an atmosphere of harmony and respect. Princess Sarah Adele and the red-haired princess decided after the ball that the next step would be to create a school for young aristocrats where they could learn manners, etiquette, and other important skills. They developed a curriculum that included classes in art, music, dance, and public speaking to fully develop their students and prepare them for life at court. The school became popular, and many parents wanted to enroll their children, seeing it as an opportunity for them to become more educated and cultured, which would benefit the entire kingdom. Princess Sarah personally administered the entrance exams to ensure that each student was truly ready to learn and eager to improve, which has earned the school an excellent reputation. The school soon became the center of cultural life in the kingdom, and its graduates occupied high positions at court, demonstrating the excellent manners and knowledge they acquired at the school founded by the princesses. Princess Sarah, in her snow-white dress, and the black-haired boy in the old castle courtyard ran merrily, enjoying every moment as if time had stopped for their children's play and laughter. Between the tall, picturesque rose bushes that enveloped the garden, they hid from each other, creating their own secret refuges where it seemed that no worries of the world would touch them. Their voices, full of delight and laughter, echoed throughout the castle garden, filling the air with an atmosphere of joy and carefreeness that even the birds living in the branches of old trees could feel. Suddenly, the boy found a secret passage leading to an old fountain hidden behind dense thickets, and together with Sarah, they set off on a little adventure, discovering new corners of the castle and its surroundings. Stopping at the fountain, they sat down on the cool marble edge and, enjoying the moment, looked at the reflection of their happy faces in the water, realizing that their friendship was the most valuable treasure found in this ancient castle. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy sitting by the fountain decided to continue their exploration of the castle, where many secrets awaited them, hidden in the ancient walls and intricate corridors. Hand in hand, they slowly walked down the narrow corridor, lit only by the flickering light of torches attached to the stone walls, feeling a slight excitement from the unknown ahead. Suddenly, they came across a massive wooden door with a rusty lock that looked like it had not been opened for centuries, and with all their efforts, the children were able to open it slightly to look inside. The door opened into a spacious hall decorated with tarnished tapestries and antique furniture that told their story of long-forgotten times and events that once took place here. Fascinated by what they saw, Sarah and the boy slowly walked around the hall, carefully examining every object, finding traces of the past in them, and felt themselves to be part of a great story that they themselves could now tell. Continuing their exploration of the hall, Sarah and the boy discovered an old dusty book lying on a carved table which seemed to contain the secrets of ancient times and incredible adventures. They opened it carefully, and the pages, covered with exquisite illustrations and cryptic notes, told them of the great exploits of the knights and princesses who once lived in this castle. Every word of the book came to life in their imagination, and they seemed to be transported to another world where magic and reality intertwined, creating an incredible atmosphere of adventure and mystery. Suddenly, as they turned the pages, they found a map leading to a hidden treasure that, according to legend, could make any wish come true, and their hearts began to beat faster with excitement and anticipation. Deciding to follow the map, the children left the hall and headed deeper into the castle, overcoming various obstacles, feeling that their adventure was just beginning and that new discoveries and challenges awaited them. Sarah and the black-haired boy followed a map that led them through mysterious corridors and staircases until they stumbled upon an ancient cache hidden behind a massive tapestry depicting a knight. Moving aside the tapestry, they discovered a secret door which they opened with difficulty, and found themselves in a small room full of ancient artifacts covered with the dust of time, creating a special atmosphere of mystery. In the center of the room, on a carved pedestal, lay an antique box decorated with precious stones, and the children carefully opened it, holding their breath, not knowing what they would find inside. Inside the box, they found a golden key and a scroll with mysterious symbols that seemed to point to their next search location. And the children realized that their adventure was becoming more and more confusing and interesting. Grabbing the key and scroll, they left the room and continued on their way, determined to unravel all the mysteries left by their ancestors and find a treasure that might change their destiny forever. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy, inspired by ancient discoveries, decided to relax in the garden, where they were greeted by numerous bright flowers, among which beautiful yellow petals stood out. They walked slowly along the paths of the garden, enjoying the aromas and views, marveling at the diversity of plants, and feeling how every corner of the garden gave them new discoveries and impressions. Their attention was drawn to a particularly beautiful flower field, where yellow flowers like little suns illuminated everything around, creating an incredible feeling of joy and tranquility. The children decided to stay longer to enjoy the moment, collecting bouquets and weaving wreaths of yellow flowers, which they planned to give to the queen as a sign of their love and gratitude. After spending several hours among the flowers, Sarah and the boy felt how the garden filled their hearts with peace and happiness, strengthening their friendship and readiness for new adventures that lay ahead. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy went to the garden where various flowers were blooming everywhere, but their attention was especially attracted by the bright yellow flowers that shone like little suns among the greenery. They decided to take a long walk through the garden, enjoying the beauty of each flower, and inhaled the aroma that filled the air, making their walk even more magical and memorable. On one of the paths, they discovered a secluded place with especially lush yellow flowers, where they decided to stop and take a closer look at each flower, admiring their delicate petals and bright colors. Sarah and the boy carefully collected flowers, creating magnificent bouquets that they planned to give to their loved ones, to share with them the joy and beauty of this wonderful day. Time flew by, and the children, filled with happiness and inspiration, left the garden realizing that this day would remain in their memory as one of the brightest and happiest moments of their childhood. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy walked slowly through the garden, admiring the variety of flowers, among which yellow flowers stood out, which with their bright color attracted their attention and beckoned them to come closer. They wandered for a long time among the flowering flower beds, enjoying every moment and inhaling the sweet aromas that filled the air, creating a feeling of magic and comfort around them. Stopping at a large clearing where yellow flowers bloomed especially magnificently, they decided to linger and look at each flower, admiring their beauty and uniqueness, which made the garden so special. Sarah and the boy began to collect small bouquets, being careful not to damage the plants, and made wreaths of flowers that they wanted to give to their loved ones to share the joy of this beautiful day with them. The sun gradually set, and the children, filled with happiness and inspiration, left the garden knowing that this day would remain in their hearts as one of the brightest and most memorable moments of their childhood. The next day, Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy decided to return to the garden again to spend even more time among the flowers they loved so much and to find new secluded corners for their games. They wandered along winding paths leading to new clearings, each of which was decorated with unique flowers, and the children were delighted to discover new types of plants. One day, wandering into the deep part of the garden, they came across an old gazebo entwined with flowering vines and decided to spend several hours there discussing their findings and dreaming of future adventures. Time flew by, and the children, inspired by the beauty of the garden, began to come up with fairy tales about magical creatures that could live among these flowers and protect them from any dangers. As the sun began to set, Sarah and the boy left the garden, promising to return the next day to continue their research and create even more unforgettable memories of the wonderful days spent together. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy returned to the garden, determined to find even more amazing flowers, and soon discovered rare species that shone in all shades of the rainbow, striking in their beauty. They slowly walked along the paths, discussing each new flower, finding special magic in it, and admiring its uniqueness, which made their walk even more exciting and eventful. In one of the clearings, the children noticed an unusual light emanating from the center of a huge flower, and coming closer, they saw that it was a little fairy who was waving at them with her tiny wings. The fairy told the children about the magical properties of the garden, how each flower protects its own secret spell, and invited them to go on an amazing journey to reveal all the secrets of this magical place. Having enthusiastically accepted the invitation, Sarah and the boy followed the fairy, feeling that incredible adventures and amazing discoveries awaited them that would make their day in the garden even more unforgettable and magical. Princess Sarah, walking through the garden, noticed a wilted flower that looked especially sad against the backdrop of bright and lush plants, and decided to approach it to take a closer look. She carefully touched the flower, and her gentle hands accidentally touched its petals, which suddenly began to return to their former bright colors, as if under the influence of invisible magic. Sarah was amazed at what was happening, not understanding how she was able to heal the flower, and continued to carefully watch as it filled with life and beauty again, as if a miracle had happened before her eyes. The black-haired boy, noticing what had happened, approached Sarah and began to question her about her actions, wondering how a simple touch could cause such an amazing result in the garden. The fairy, who was watching, explained to the children that Sarah had a special connection with the magic of nature, and that her kind heart and sincere care helped restore life to the withered flower, granting a miracle. Princess Sarah returned to the castle and, full of delight at her newly discovered abilities, hastened to share her amazing discovery with her sister Adele, waiting for her reaction. Adele, having learned about how Sarah accidentally healed a wilted flower, was sincerely happy for her sister and wholeheartedly supported her, admiring that her sister had such a unique gift. Together, they discussed how this new ability could be used to help plants and people, and Adele suggested creating a small garden in the castle, where Sarah could practice her magical skills. Inspired by the idea, both princesses began planning how to make the garden not only a place to practice, but also a cozy corner where they could spend time together enjoying the beauty of nature. Sarah and Adele felt their bond growing stronger and were determined to use their talents to create something truly special that could bring joy and benefit to those around them. Princess Sarah and Adele began creating a new garden, deciding that it would become not only a place to practice magic, but also a cozy corner where the inhabitants of the castle could relax and enjoy nature. They carefully selected plants based on their properties and needs, and spent every day in the garden tending to the plants and testing out new ways to use magic to make them grow and flourish. Gradually, the garden began to be filled with incredible plants and flowers, many of which Sarah healed and strengthened with her own powers, and this corner turned into a true miracle, causing admiration for everyone who saw it. The castle's inhabitants began to visit the garden, enjoying its beauty and freshness, and Princess Sarah became a beloved figure for children and adults who happily watched as her magic brought life and joy. With Sister Adele, they continued to work on the garden, believing that their efforts not only strengthened their own connection, but also created a place where everyone could find solace and inspiration among the green wonders. One day, a mysterious messenger appeared in the garden of Princess Sarah and Adele, with a letter that spoke of a mysterious flower with unique properties that could become a new target for their research. The letter contained directions to a distant country where this flower was supposedly found, and captivated by the idea of a new adventure, the princesses began to prepare for a journey to solve the riddle. Before setting off, they spent several days carefully preparing everything they needed, including studying maps and collecting magical ingredients that could be useful in their quest. Once everything was ready, Sarah and Adele set off on a journey full of anticipation and determination, hoping to find the mysterious flower and learn more about its capabilities and magical powers. The journey was full of amazing discoveries and challenges, but the princesses did not lose faith and continued to move forward, confident that their efforts would lead them to the long-awaited flower and new adventures. Princess Sarah and Adele, after a long journey, arrived in a mysterious country where they were met by local residents who told about a flower, which, as it turned out, was deeply hidden in a mysterious forest. Following the directions, the princesses went into the forest, which was full of strange sounds and unusual creatures, and despite their fears, they continued to move forward, believing in their purpose and strength. In the forest, they came across an ancient tree with magical runes that pointed the way to the place where, according to legend, a mysterious flower grew, and this discovery gave them new strength and determination. Having walked some more distance, they found a hidden clearing in the center of which grew an amazing flower, emitting a soft light and filling the air with magical energy, as if the forest itself was protecting it. The princesses, amazed by the beauty and magic of the flower, carefully collected it and went back, realizing that their journey was successful and that they would bring home not only the flower, but also new knowledge about magic. Princess Sarah returned to the castle and immediately upon arrival went to her father, the king, who was worried about her long absence and eagerly awaited the story of her adventures and magic. The king, having listened carefully to Sarah's story about how she accidentally healed a withered flower and discovered unique magical abilities, began to ask about every detail, showing sincere interest and pride. He was particularly interested in the details of the mysterious flower she had brought, and having learned of its magical properties, asked Sarah to describe exactly how she discovered and used her new powers. Princess Sarah happily shared all the details of her research and travels, explaining how her touch and good intentions helped the flower come back to life, and how it opened up new horizons of magic for her. The king, impressed by her story and accomplishments, praised Sarah for her courage and skill, and promised that they would explore the possibility of using her magic to benefit the kingdom and its people. To test the true power of Princess Sarah, the king ordered to bring a magic stone, which, according to ancient legends, could only be charged with powerful and pure magic emanating from a true wizard. The stone was covered in mysterious runes and emitted a faint light, and the king placed it in front of Sarah, explaining that charging the stone required concentration and control of magic to activate its hidden powers. Princess Sarah, concentrating, placed her hands on the stone and began to slowly build up her magic, channeling its energy into the stone to see how her power would interact with the ancient runes. Gradually, the stone began to glow brighter, and the runes on its surface began to move and sparkle, reflecting the power and purity of the magic Sarah was channeling as the king watched in pride and wonder. When the light of the stone reached its maximum brightness, the king recognized that the princess's power was indeed great, and seeing her successful completion of the task, he promised to support her in further learning and using magic for the good of the kingdom. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy decided to visit the library, which was full of ancient books and manuscripts, and began to explore its rich collections, hoping to find new knowledge about magic and adventure. They carefully selected books with captivating titles and ancient symbols, immersing themselves in their reading and discovering fascinating stories of magical creatures and forgotten spells. Each book revealed new secrets for them, and they enthusiastically discussed what they had read, exchanged ideas, and shared their thoughts on how this knowledge could be used in their own research. One of the books they found was an ancient manuscript containing recipes for ancient potions and spells, and the children spent a lot of time trying to decipher the complex instructions and understand their magical meaning. At the end of the day, full of new ideas and inspiration, Sarah and the boy left the library, agreeing to further study the books they found and use the knowledge gained for their future adventures and experiments. Princess Sarah and the black-haired boy sat at a table in the library, surrounded by countless books, each of which could tell them extraordinary stories about distant lands and lost civilizations. They selected ancient tomes covered in dust that seemed to hold the secrets of long-gone eras, and their eyes sparkled with anticipation as they immersed themselves in each new story. In their hands were books about great travelers, ancient legends, and magical artifacts, each of which offered them a unique view of the world full of wonder and adventure. Reading became a real journey for them, opening up horizons that they could not even imagine before, and in this magical process, they found extraordinary pleasures. Over time, they forgot about time and the world around them, immersed in the pages of books, and their friendship only grew stronger as they shared their discoveries and dreams of future adventures. Every day, Sarah and the black-haired boy continued to explore new books, plunging into the worlds of fantasy and reality that opened up before them, creating the magical atmosphere of the library. They became real explorers of ancient mysteries, deciphering ancient maps and looking for hidden messages in the pages, which made their pastime unforgettable and exciting. Gradually, their knowledge and imagination expanded, and they began to dream of their own adventures inspired by what they read, which became the goal of their future travels and plans. Their friendship grew stronger every day because together they shared the joy of discovery, and every book they read only strengthened their connection and joint dreams of great achievements. Soon, the library became not just a place for them to read, but a magical world where they could create their own stories and adventures, leaving a mark on each other's hearts. One day, while turning the pages of one of the ancient books, Sarah and the black-haired boy came across a map that seemed to be the key to long-forgotten treasures and unexplored territories. Their hearts beat faster with excitement when they realized that the map pointed the way to the mysterious island that was mentioned in ancient legends, and they decided to immediately set off. They carefully prepared for their first real adventure, collecting necessary supplies and studying all available information to be ready for any unexpected challenges. Their friendship grew stronger, and their dreams became more real as they set out on a journey full of expectations and adventures that promised to be a true test of their courage. Their path was full of difficulties and miracles, but with every step they got closer to their goal, and the library where it all began seemed to them a distant but always important part of their journey. Sarah and the black-haired boy's journey took them through dense forests and raging rivers, overcoming all obstacles along the way, and every day brought new discoveries and challenges. On the third night, they found an abandoned camp left by someone long ago, and exploring it, discovered ancient artifacts that could possibly help them in their further search. As they moved forward, they encountered difficult conditions, but their courage and mutual support helped them overcome all obstacles despite the dangers along the way. As they approached the island, their expectations grew, and each moment became more tense as they realized that their dream of treasure could soon become a reality. When they finally reached the island, their eyes filled with delight, and as they breathed in the fresh air, they realized that their adventure was just beginning, and a new world lay before them. Princess Sarah, looking at the boy, realized that the curse was beginning to absorb his life energy, and she felt her heart clench with excitement and anxiety for his fate. Ominous shadows appeared around the boy, and his body was slowly covered with a dark crust, which made the situation even more desperate and required immediate intervention from the princess. Scraps of ancient spells and dark magic flashed through the princess's head, but none of them represented a complete solution to the problem, which only increased her feeling of helplessness. Without losing hope, Sarah decided to turn to the elders of her kingdom for help, hoping that their wisdom and knowledge would help her solve the mystery of the curse and save the boy. Every minute spent searching for a solution seemed endless, and she prayed that the forces she sought would arrive in time to prevent the boy from being completely consumed by the darkness. Princess Sarah, immersed in the study of ancient manuscripts, discovered a mention of a mysterious ritual that could suspend the curse and restore the boy's vitality. With determination, she immediately began gathering the necessary ingredients for the ritual, knowing that every moment of delay could become critical, and her actions must be quick and precise. As the night gradually grew deeper, the princess worked tirelessly to prepare everything needed for the ritual, and her desire to save the boy gave her strength and confidence. When everything was ready, Sarah began to perform the ritual, her hands trembling with excitement, but she focused on every detail in order to resist evil as effectively as possible. As the ritual began, magical energy filled the room, and although the outcome was still uncertain, the princess prayed that her efforts would not be in vain, and that the curse would be finally broken. The magical energy emanating from the ritual began to wrap around the boy's body in sparkling streams, and the dark layers of the curse that covered him began to slowly recede, freeing his soul. Princess Sarah focused on every movement, and uttered word felt the curse gradually losing its power, and her hope for success increased every minute. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in the room, and the dark forces surrounding the boy began to melt their darkness, disappearing under the influence of the ritual, leaving only light and warmth. As the light began to dim, the princess walked up to the boy with bated breath and saw that his breathing had become even, and his face had finally acquired a calm and peaceful expression. Sarah, feeling relieved, gently touched the boy's forehead, knowing that the ritual, although dangerous, had worked, and she was able to restore his life and hope, which had almost disappeared. Princess Sarah, seeing that the curse was completely broken, breathed a sigh of relief, and her heart was filled with joy, knowing that the boy was saved and that the darkness no longer threatened him. She watched carefully as the boy slowly regained consciousness, his eyes opening and becoming aware of the world around him, and her joy was immeasurable when she saw his gaze. The princess gently supported him, helping him to stand up, and with a gentle smile promised that everything would be fine, and her warmth and care brought the boy confidence and a sense of security. Soon, in the hope of recovery and complete healing, Sarah decided to take the boy to a safe place where he could be thoroughly examined and helped to return to normal life. As they left the dark room illuminated only by the moon, the princess felt that her mission was accomplished, and she was ready to continue her duties, knowing that she had done her best. Time passed, and being in a new safe place, the boy began to recover. His health improved, and he gradually gaining strength began to come to life like a flower in the spring sun. Princess Sarah, carefully caring for him, saw how every day brought new signs of recovery, and her heart was filled with pride and satisfaction from the work done and the life saved. Meanwhile, rumors of a miraculous rescue began to spread in the kingdom, and the people inspired by the actions of the princess began to admire her courage and nobility more and more. Sarah realized that her task was not yet complete, and knew that she had to decide how to use her new knowledge and power to protect the kingdom from future threats and curses. Realizing the importance of her role, she was determined to continue her ministry, ready for new challenges and trials, confident that she could cope with any difficulties along the way. Princess Sarah, noticing an improvement in the boy's condition, decided to give him time to recover and carefully studied ancient manuscripts to prepare for future threats. In her castle, meetings were held with sages and magicians, where new strategies for protecting the kingdom from possible magical attacks were discussed, as well as ways to prevent such curses. The boy, gradually becoming more active, began to ask questions about what had happened, and Sarah shared her knowledge and experience with him so that he was ready to cope with any difficulties. The princess soon organized training for her guards, introducing them to the new magical defenses and rituals she had learned to ensure the safety of the kingdom and prevent future evil. Every day, Sarah became more and more confident in her abilities, knowing that her willingness and knowledge would help maintain peace and harmony in the kingdom, despite the challenges and dangers that arose. While Princess Sarah continued her training, the boy, who had regained his strength, began to actively participate in the training, eager to be useful and protect the kingdom from new threats. Sarah saw his confidence and skills grow and watched with pride as he became more prepared and determined, ready to take part in the defense of his new home. Soon, thanks to the efforts of Sarah and her team, the kingdom gained new magical barriers and protective spells, strengthening its security and providing protection from any potential attacks and curses. As the new year approached, the princess organized a grand celebration to celebrate the victory over darkness and the restoration of peace, inviting everyone who had helped in this great cause. During the celebration, Sarah and the boy, now friends and allies, communicated and planned future events, remaining prepared for any challenges that fate might bring. Shortly after the celebration, Sarah noticed that alarming signs of strange magical phenomena were beginning to arise in the kingdom, and her concern grew, requiring immediate attention. She gathered her most trusted advisors and mages to conduct research into the new threats, and began analyzing the possible sources of these anomalies, trying to find the cause. The boy, now confident in his abilities, offered to help in the investigation, and his fresh perspective on the problem became unexpectedly valuable, opening up new perspectives and ideas for analysis. Deep research led to the unexpected discovery that the dark force that was defeated left behind tiny fragments that could rise again at the slightest push. Princess Sarah, recognizing the threat, once again gathered her forces and resources to finally eliminate the remaining dark forces and ensure that the kingdom was protected from any possible danger. Princess Sarah, having gathered all available resources and knowledge, organized a special meeting to discuss a strategy for permanently eliminating the remaining dark fragments and preventing their rebirth. Her plan included the creation of a powerful spell that would not only neutralize the residual forces, but also strengthen the kingdom's magical defenses for a long time, ensuring maximum security. The boy, who was increasingly becoming an experienced assistant, took on an important role in the implementation of the ritual, helping in the preparation and collection of the necessary artifacts for the successful completion of the magical operation. In preparation for the ritual, the princess and her team discovered that dark fragments had begun to become active, and they had to speed up their actions to prevent unforeseen consequences. When the moment came for the ritual, magical energy filled the air again, and Princess Sarah focused on every detail, hoped that this would be the final step in protecting her kingdom from darkness. Princess Sarah, sitting next to the boy in a warm room, began to gently question him about his past, trying to understand where this terrible curse came from in order to better understand his story. The boy, having difficulty overcoming his shyness and fear, said that the curse began in his early childhood, when his family fell into a terrible disaster which left them under the threat of dark forces. He remembered how his parents and older relatives tried to protect him from evil, but in the end they were powerless, and his life was full of fear and misunderstanding until he found himself in this curse. Princess Sarah, after listening carefully to his story, felt deep sympathy and determination to do everything possible to not only understand, but also help him cope with the consequences of his tragic childhood. At the end of the conversation, she promised the boy that she would do everything in her power to provide him with a safe future and help restore the lost hopes and dreams carried away by dark forces. Princess Sarah, after a conversation with the boy, began to look for ways to help him restore lost connections with his past, deciding that understanding his roots would help overcome internal traumas. She approached the elders and sages of her kingdom to learn more about the dark forces that could affect his family, and find ways to sever ties to their evil. As she investigated, she discovered that the curse was linked to an ancient and forgotten cult that used magic to manipulate and destroy, leaving a trail of darkness and fear in its wake. The princess organized a research team to study the ruins and records of this cult, hoping to find a way to finally destroy its influence and secure the future of the boy and the kingdom. With each passing day, as Sarah and her team immersed themselves in their study and search, they became more determined in their task, believing that their efforts would help restore peace and protect the innocent from any threat. Princess Sarah, immersed in the study of ancient texts, began to understand that the curse was part of a more complex scheme designed to destroy entire kingdoms and plunge them into darkness. She assembled a team of the best magicians and historians to decipher and collect all the fragments of knowledge about the cult, as well as prepare a strategy for the final fight against the dark forces remaining in the kingdom. Every day they found more and more details about the insidious plans of the cultists, and each success brought them closer to the goal of finally destroying the source of evil and preventing future threats. The princess held many meetings with other leaders, informing them of new discoveries and coordinating actions to ensure the support and cooperation of all necessary forces for a common victory. It soon became obvious that the only way to guarantee complete deliverance from the dark curse was to conduct a large-scale ritual, uniting the forces of all who were ready to fight for light and justice. Princess Sarah, having learned of the need for a large-scale ritual, began to gather all available forces and resources, attracting magicians, priests, and warriors from all over the kingdom to participate in this great task. Her plan was to conduct a ritual in an ancient sacred place that possessed powerful magical energy necessary to successfully complete the ritual and finally destroy the dark fragments. The team trained by Sarah worked day and night to create magical symbols and collect artifacts needed for the ritual to ensure its maximum effectiveness and safety. On the day of the ritual, the princess and her allies gathered at a sacred place where the energy of magic and prayer combined into a powerful stream, and everyone expected how the dark forces would be finally defeated. When the ritual was completed, the magical energy severed the last connection with the dark curse, and Princess Sarah was relieved and joyful to see that the kingdom had been freed from darkness and returned to peace and harmony. After completing the ritual, Princess Sarah and her allies felt all the tension and fear disappear, and they realized that their efforts had been justified, and the dark forces no longer threatened the kingdom. The boy, who became the symbol of their victory, was filled with gratitude and joy, and his new memories of freedom and safety began a new chapter in his life full of hope and possibility. The princess organized a grand celebration to celebrate the kingdom's liberation and to express her gratitude to all who participated in this difficult and dangerous journey to restore peace. Soon, the kingdom began to recover, and thanks to the efforts of Sarah and her team, it became stronger and more united, ready to face any future challenges and protected from any threats. The princess, satisfied with the results of her work, continued to strengthen ties with neighboring lands and prepared for new endeavors, knowing that her kingdom had regained peace and harmony. Princess Sarah, after completing the ritual and returning the kingdom to peace, went to her sister Adele, who all this time was worried about her safety and was deeply worried. Adele greeted her sister with tears in her eyes and hugs her face, expressing a mixture of relief and concern when she learned that Sarah had returned alive and well and that the danger had finally been eliminated. Sarah, realizing how difficult it was for her sister in her absence, began to talk about all the events she had experienced recently, sharing the details and how everything ended successfully. Adele, listening to Sarah's story, felt proud of her courage and determination, and her fears gradually dissipated, leaving only gratitude that her sister returned home safe. Soon, the sisters, hugging each other, spent the evening in a cozy conversation, sharing stories and plans for the future, and their bond strengthened again, bringing both comfort and joy after such difficult trials. Princess Sarah and Adele began to work actively on plans to strengthen the kingdom, and their efforts bore first fruit when they completed the construction of new defensive fortifications around the capital. They also organized several meetings with neighboring rulers to establish strong diplomatic relations and discuss joint measures to prevent any future threats and maintain peace. Working together, the sisters identified weaknesses in existing defenses and introduced new magical defenses that greatly increased the kingdom's security and resistance to outside attacks. Princess Adele, using her diplomatic skills, forged several advantageous alliances that strengthened the kingdom's position and provided support in the event of new threats. Every day, through hard work and cooperation, the kingdom became stronger and safer, and Princess Sarah and her sister Adele looked forward to the future with confidence, knowing that they were ready for anything. Princess Sarah and Adele, completing the strengthening of the kingdom, decided to focus on rebuilding cultural and educational institutions to provide future generations with knowledge and wisdom. They initiated the creation of new academies and libraries, attracting scholars and craftsmen from neighboring lands to pass on important knowledge and skills to the next generation and maintain prosperity. Classes soon began in the new educational institutions, and the kingdom was once again filled with activity as students and apprentices began to immerse themselves in the study of magic, history, and art. Princess Sarah actively participated in the opening of new libraries and research centers. Her presence inspired people and showed how important it is to preserve culture and traditions for future generations. Over time, the kingdom began to prosper, and thanks to the efforts of Sarah and Adele, it gained not only physical protection, but also spiritual and cultural wealth, ready to face any future. With the kingdom strengthened, Princess Sarah and Adele decided to restore natural resources by creating new parks and gardens to bring greenery back to the country and improve the quality of life. They organized campaigns to plant trees and restore ecosystems, attracting volunteers from different parts of the kingdom, which contributed to the creation of a healthy and beautiful environment. While working to restore nature, Sarah and her sister also educated the community on the importance of protecting the environment and sustainable use of natural resources to ensure long-term well-being. Gradually, the kingdom transformed into a prosperous place where green landscapes combined with strong magical defenses and cultural institutions, creating a harmonious and safe environment for everyone. Princess Sarah and Adele, seeing the fruits of their labors, felt proud of the work done and understood that their efforts created a strong foundation for future generations and ensured the prosperity of the kingdom. Princess Sarah and Adele, after successfully completing nature restoration projects, decided to focus on improving the kingdom's internal infrastructure to support its further development. They initiated the construction of new roads and bridges connecting remote corners of the kingdom, which helped improve trade and communication between different regions of the country. At the same time, the princess and her sister introduced programs to educate and train local specialists to manage new projects and ensure the efficient functioning of the updated infrastructure. The kingdom soon began to prosper, thanks to improved transportation routes and a more integrated system of government, which contributed to economic growth and increased prosperity for the people. With each passing day, the kingdom became a more developed and harmonious place, and Princess Sarah and Adele watched with satisfaction as their efforts resulted in the creation of a prosperous and sustainable society. Princess Sarah, feeling that her kingdom had achieved stability, decided to pay attention to strengthening cultural traditions, reviving forgotten holidays and customs that united the people. It organized festivals and events dedicated to historical heritage and traditional crafts, which attracted large numbers of people and contributed to the preservation of cultural identity. Adele actively participated in the preparation of cultural programs, attracting craftsmen and artists who taught the people ancient arts and passed on the skills inherited from their ancestors. With each new event, the kingdom became more united and proud of its cultural heritage, and residents felt that their traditions had regained importance and recognition. Princess Sarah and Adele, seeing how the people joyfully accepted new old traditions, felt satisfaction that they were able to make a meaningful contribution to strengthening their culture and maintaining its heritage. Princess Sarah and Adele, satisfied with their success in strengthening the kingdom, began to consider opportunities to expand their influence and cooperate with distant lands for common prosperity. They initiated diplomatic missions, sending representatives to neighboring countries to negotiate new trade agreements and establish strategic alliances for further development and security. As part of their foreign economic policy, the princesses also organized international exhibitions and symposiums at which their kingdom could showcase its achievements and cultural wealth. These events contributed not only to strengthening economic ties, but also to creating strong cultural and friendly relations, which allowed the kingdom to occupy an important place in the international arena. With each new agreement and partnership, Princess Sarah and Adele strengthened their kingdom, creating a strong foundation for its further development and ensuring its sustainable future in a global context. Princess Sarah and Adele, with deepening international relations, decided to focus on developing science and technology in their kingdom to ensure its leadership in new areas. They established research institutes, attracting the best scientists and engineers to pursue cutting-edge developments and innovations that could improve life in the kingdom. As part of their initiatives, the princesses have established grant programs to support young researchers and startups seeking new discoveries, and the introduction of new technologies. These efforts have led to the creation of unique technologies, such as improved water systems and sustainable agriculture, that have significantly improved the population's quality of life and resilience to external challenges. Princess Sarah and Adele, seeing the results of their actions, watched with satisfaction as their kingdom became a center of scientific progress and innovation, confident of its future growth and prosperity. Princess Sarah and Adele, noting advances in science and technology, decided to pay attention to protecting the environment by launching new projects to restore ecosystems and preserve rare species. They established conservation programs, including the creation of nature reserves and active collaboration with environmental organizations to ensure the long-term conservation of the kingdom's natural resources. As part of their environmental initiatives, the princesses also carried out large-scale campaigns to raise awareness of the importance of environmental protection and involve citizens in conservation activities. These measures have contributed to significant improvements in ecosystems, restoration of lost lands, and conservation of unique species of flora and fauna, making the kingdom greener and healthier. Princess Sarah and Adele watched with pride as their environmental efforts bore fruit, and rejoiced at creating a cleaner, safer future for everyone in the kingdom. Princess Sarah and Adele, having completed their environmental projects, decided to focus on promoting arts and culture, creating new theaters and art galleries to support local talent. They organized grants and competitions for artists, musicians, and actors to inspire them to create new works and maintain the kingdom's cultural wealth at a high level. The kingdom began to regularly host art exhibitions and music festivals, which attracted the attention of spectators and critics, promoting the development and recognition of local art. The princess and her sister actively participated in cultural events, opening exhibitions, and supporting young talents, which contributed to strengthening cultural life and creating a unique atmosphere in the kingdom. With each new project and initiative, Princess Sarah and Adele strengthened their position as patrons of art and culture, seeing their kingdom become a true center of creative and cultural inspiration. Princess Sarah and Adele, having strengthened culture and the arts in the kingdom, decided to focus on improving healthcare, initiating projects to modernize hospitals and train medical personnel. They established new medical facilities and research centers to provide residents with access to advanced treatments and improve the quality of medical care throughout the kingdom. The princesses also introduced programs to prevent disease and promote health, including free health checkups and educational campaigns about healthy living. These measures greatly improved public health, reducing disease rates and increasing the overall well-being of the population, making the kingdom healthier and more prosperous. Princess Sarah and Adele, seeing the positive results of their efforts in the field of health, felt deep satisfaction that they were able to provide their subjects with a decent quality of life and medical care. Princess Sarah and Adele, having completed projects to improve healthcare, turned their attention to education, initiating reforms aimed at improving the quality of educational institutions and the availability of knowledge. They organized the construction of new schools and universities, introducing modern teaching methods and training teachers in new pedagogical technologies to improve the level of education. The princesses also created scholarships and educational grants for talented students from different walks of life to give them the opportunity to receive the best education and realize their dreams. Soon, the kingdom's education system improved, and students began to receive high-quality knowledge, which contributed to the formation of a new generation of educated and successful citizens. Watching progress in education, Princess Sarah and Adele felt proud of their achievements, knowing that their efforts would help build a brighter future for the entire kingdom. Princess Sarah and Adele, planning a pleasant evening, invited the boy to join them for dinner in a luxurious garden, surrounded by flowering plants and fragrant aromas. In the cozy setting of the garden, illuminated by the soft light of lamps and the starry sky, they enjoyed delicious dishes, discussing achievements and plans for the future, creating a warm and friendly atmosphere. The boy, seeing the care and attention of the princesses, felt comfortable and calm, sharing this moment with them, and feeling that his place here was as important as their presence. Over dinner, they discussed not only current affairs, but also their dreams, experiences, and plans, which helped strengthen their mutual understanding and make the evening more meaningful and memorable. At the end of the evening, when they said goodbye, Princess Sarah and Adele felt deep satisfaction that they were able to create such a warm and cozy moment for the boy, full of care and warmth. After dinner in the garden, Princess Sarah and Adele invited the boy to take a walk in the evening garden to enjoy the fresh air and magical night scenery, which contributed to a relaxed conversation. The boy, finding himself in such a picturesque place for the first time, was amazed by the beauty of the garden, and the princesses gladly told him about various plants and the history of the creation of this secluded corner. A walk through the garden, filled with the sounds of night insects and the light rustling of leaves, helped strengthen their friendship and allowed the boy to get to know the princesses and their world even closer. During the conversation, they touched on the topics of hopes and dreams, and the boy, feeling supported and understood, began to open up and share his thoughts about the future and his desires. When they returned to the residence, Princess Sarah and Adele, seeing how happy and relaxed the boy was, realized that this evening was an important milestone in their mutual relationship and strengthened their bond. After a walk in the garden, Princess Sarah and Adele invited the boy to a cozy library, where they continued the conversation in a calm atmosphere, surrounded by shelves of books and soft lamplight. In the library, the princesses showed the boy their favorite books and talked about the importance of literature in their lives, which helped create an even warmer and more trusting atmosphere for communication. The boy, fascinated by stories and literary works, began to share his impressions and dreams about how books inspire him and which characters and plots are especially close to him. Inspired by the conversation, he offered the princesses several of his ideas for new stories, which aroused their interest and desire to support his creative aspirations and dreams. At the end of the evening, Princess Sarah and Adele, feeling that their connection with the boy had become even stronger, promised him to support his endeavors and help him realize his literary ideas. The next day, Princess Sarah and Adele decided to give the boy a tour of the royal palace to show him the beautiful halls, art collections, and historical relics. During the excursion, the boy especially remembered the ancient artifacts and paintings which the princesses described with great enthusiasm, telling stories associated with each exhibit. The boy's attention was focused on details, and he asked questions that the princesses eagerly discussed, making the excursion educational and exciting for all participants. After the excursion, they stopped in one of the cozy corners of the palace, where the princesses invited the boy to draw his impressions of what he saw, in order to preserve the memory of the visit. The boy, inspired by what he saw and the support of the princesses, happily began to draw, and the princesses watched his work with interest, proud that they were able to make this day special. After a tour of the palace, Princess Sarah and Adele noticed that the boy, completely immersed in his creativity, demonstrated extraordinary passion and talent for drawing. The princesses decided to support his interest and invited him to enroll in the art school at the palace, where he could develop his skills and receive an education under the guidance of experienced artists. The boy, having learned about the opportunity for training and mentoring, was very happy and grateful, and the princesses gladly organized a meeting with the teachers to discuss his future studies. In the following weeks, the boy actively attended classes, learned drawing and painting techniques, and the princesses visited him regularly to support and encourage his progress. Seeing his talent and confidence grow, Princess Sarah and Adele were happy for the boy, knowing that they were able to give him the chance to realize his dreams and become part of their royal world. The boy, immersed in his studies at art school, began to show his abilities, creating amazing works that attracted the attention of both local residents and royal guests. Princess Sarah and Adele were proud of his achievements and decided to have an exhibition of his paintings in the main hall of the palace to showcase his talent to a wider audience and inspire others. At the exhibition, which attracted many spectators, the boy's works received high marks and rave reviews, which became an important moment in his artistic career and confirmed his potential. In response to the success of the exhibition, the princesses offered the boy the opportunity to participate in international competitions and collaborate with famous artists, which opened up new horizons for him. The boy, seeing the support and trust of the princesses, enthusiastically accepted the opportunities offered, and his career continued to develop, strengthening his bond with the princesses and strengthening their friendship. With each new project and exhibition, the boy became more and more famous, and his works began to appear in galleries outside the kingdom, which attracted the attention of the international art community. Princess Sarah and Adele continued to support him, organizing meetings with renowned artists and curators, which helped expand his creative horizons and deepen his professional skills. Their efforts did not go unnoticed, and soon the boy was offered participation in prestigious international exhibitions, where his work won recognition and brought him new opportunities for collaboration. The princesses, seeing how successfully the boy's career was developing, were happy for him and were proud that they were able to help unlock his potential and give him the opportunity to follow his dream. The boy, grateful for the princess's support, continued to develop his talent, and their friendship grew even stronger, symbolizing a successful collaboration and mutual respect that lasted for many years. Princess Sarah and the boy sat in the room, their tears streaming down their cheeks, as they realized that the curse had been lifted, and they were now free from its heavy oppression. Princess Sarah's tears glistened in the dim light, mixing with drops of joy on the face of the boy, who could now breathe freely without fear of the evil surrounding him. There was a silence in the room that was full of relief and a sense of liberation, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from their hearts, and they had regained hope. The boy looked at Sarah, and her eyes reflected the happiness he felt, their emotions intertwined, creating a moment of silent but deep understanding. Sarah hugged the boy, and they both felt their souls finally finding peace. Their tears shed as a sign of the end of suffering were tears of joy and hope. Princess Sarah sat next to the boy and listened carefully to his story about how he was lost in the forest and could not find his way home until he met a kind woman who sheltered him and took care of him. She suddenly realized that the boy sitting in front of her was the same lost prince that everyone had been talking about for many years. His disappearance was the reason for a long and futile search throughout the kingdom. The boy knew nothing about his royal origins and was surprised when the princess told him about his real place in the royal family, about his right to the throne and responsibilities to the people. Princess Sarah decided to help the boy learn more about his parents, and past they began planning to return to the castle so that the boy could meet the king and queen and learn the truth about his origins. The boy was full of doubts and fears, but with the support of Princess Sarah, he gained courage and agreed to travel to the castle to find out the truth about his royal heritage and fulfill his destiny. Sarah and the boy began their journey to the castle, hoping to find out the truth about its origins and return it to its rightful place in the kingdom. The journey was long and full of trials, but they were determined. During their journey, they met many people, each of whom helped them by providing food, shelter, and advice. Many of these people had once served the royal family and remembered the lost prince. Sarah and the boy learned of ancient legends and prophecies surrounding his return, each tale raising more questions about his past and future, increasing the desire to find the truth. When they finally reached the castle, the boy was stunned by its grandeur and beauty, a feeling of excitement mixed with anxiety. But Sarah's presence gave him strength and confidence to move forward. They were met by the king and queen, whose eyes were filled with tears of joy and surprise. They hugged the boy, recognizing him as their son, and began to tell him how long they had been waiting for this moment. The boy stood in front of the king and queen. His heart was beating fast, but he felt that he had found his home. The queen hugged him with such tenderness that all doubts disappeared, and he realized that he was truly their son. The king ordered a festive feast to be organized in honor of the prince's return. The entire castle was decorated with flowers and garlands, music was played everywhere, and people rejoiced, celebrating the reunion of the royal family. Princess Sarah was with the boy throughout the holiday. She watched as he interacted with the courtiers and learned the new rules and responsibilities that now lay on his shoulders. The boy, although feeling a little insecure, became more and more confident in his role every day. He began to take part in state affairs and make important decisions with the king. Soon, the news of the return of the lost prince spread throughout the kingdom. People rejoiced and hoped that now their country would become even stronger, because in their ruler they saw wisdom, strength, and justice. The boy took on the responsibilities of a prince, trying to meet the expectations of his family and people. He began to study the history of the kingdom, its laws and traditions, in order to become a worthy heir to the throne. Princess Sarah continued to support him. They resolved important issues together and spent a lot of time discussing the future of the kingdom and plans for its improvement. Their friendship became stronger. The king and queen watched their son's success with pride. They saw in him not only a wise ruler, but also a man with a kind heart ready to protect his people and take care of their well-being. The boy felt more and more confident in his new role. He found strength and wisdom in himself that he had not previously suspected. His actions and decisions brought peace and prosperity to the kingdom. The inhabitants of the kingdom admired their new prince. His justice and care for people made him a beloved ruler, and every day they thanked fate for his return and for the kind Princess Sarah. Princess Sarah and the prince, now confident on his feet, decided to travel to the far corners of the kingdom to personally learn the needs and problems of their subjects. This journey became an important part of their mission. In every village they visited, they were greeted with warmth and joy. People shared their stories and problems, and the prince and princess listened attentively, promising help and support. One day they came across an ancient abandoned castle, about which there were legends that it had once been an important part of the kingdom. The prince decided that its restoration would become a symbol of the revival and unity of the country. Work to restore the castle began immediately, and Princess Sarah actively participated in the project together. They brought in the best craftsmen and artisans to restore the castle to its former beauty and significance. Soon, the castle again shone with its majestic beauty. It became a place of holidays and important events, a symbol of strength and revival of the kingdom, and the prince and princess proved that together they could overcome any difficulties. Princess Sarah woke up early in the morning, when the sun's rays had already penetrated into her room. She tried to remember her dream, but all the details slipped away, leaving only a vague feeling of joy and lightness from what she saw in her dream. She got out of bed, pulled on her favorite dress, and headed out of the palace, her thoughts still hovering around that inexplicable feeling that the dream was important, but she could not understand why. When Sarah went out into the garden, her attention was immediately attracted by the bright flowers and sounds of birds. She decided to spend the morning among the greenery and flowers, enjoying every moment, hoping that it would help her remember the dream. In the garden, she met her friends who were already playing by the fountain. They invited her to join their game, and Sarah happily agreed temporarily, forgetting about her attempts to remember the dream about the wedding. Playing and laughing with her friends, Sarah gradually felt her spirits lift, her heart filled with joy and lightness, and she realized that even if the dream remained forgotten, the morning would still be beautiful. Sarah was running along the corridors of the castle, laughing merrily and hiding from her friends, when she suddenly noticed her sister Adele, who was standing by the window and looking at the garden, her face glowing with a mysterious smile. The princess approached Adele and invited her to play together. She happily agreed, and they began to run around the halls, imagining themselves as brave knights fighting invisible enemies, creating noise and fun. Soon, the sisters found themselves in the castle library, where they found ancient books and began to read stories aloud to each other about distant lands and adventures. Their imagination ran wild, and they became the heroes of these tales. Sarah and Adele, inspired by the stories they read, decided to have a real adventure and went in search of treasures hidden in the castle, following old maps that they found among the books in the library. Their search led them to the castle's dungeon, where they discovered a secret room full of ancient artifacts and jewelry. The sisters began to study the finds with delight, feeling like real researchers. Sarah and Adele carefully examined the artifacts that they found in the dungeon and came across an old diary. Its pages were covered with mysterious symbols, which the sisters decided to decipher. They returned to their room and began to carefully study the diary, gradually revealing the secrets written down many years ago. It turned out that these symbols led to another treasure hidden in the castle. Encouraged by their new discovery, the sisters set out on their search again, this time, following the directions from the diary, passing through secret passages and secret doors that they had not noticed before. Soon they found themselves in a hall full of ancient statues and mosaics. In the center of the hall, there was a chest filled with jewelry and ancient documents. Sarah and Adele could not believe their luck. They decided to share their discoveries with their parents, the king and queen, who were delighted with the discoveries of their daughters. Thanks to the joint efforts of the sisters, the castle revealed its new, previously unknown secrets. Sarah and Adele, along with their parents, began to explore the contents of the chest, discovering old maps and letters that indicated the existence of other hidden treasures in different parts of the kingdom. The king decided to organize an expedition to search for these treasures and instructed his daughters to lead it. Sarah and Adele were delighted with the upcoming adventures and began to prepare for the trip. They assembled a team of the best knights and researchers who were supposed to help them in their search and set off following the directions on the maps that they found in an ancient chest. The journey turned out to be full of challenges and unexpected discoveries. The sisters overcame obstacles, solved puzzles, and gradually approached their goal, finding more and more precious artifacts and relics. Finally, they reached the last indication on the map and found a great treasure hidden in the ancient ruins. The king and queen were proud of their daughters. Their kingdom now prospered thanks to the finds. Sarah and Adele returned home in triumph. They were greeted with flowers and delight. The king organized a great celebration in honor of his daughters, where all the inhabitants of the kingdom could see the treasures they had found. At the celebration, the sisters told stories about their adventures, inspiring the younger generation to take courageous actions and explore the world. Their stories aroused everyone's admiration and desire to learn more. After the holiday, Sarah and Adele decided not to stop there. They thought about new expeditions and exploring distant lands, because the world was full of secrets and treasures that had yet to be found. The king and queen supported their aspirations, providing all the necessary resources for new travels, and soon the sisters set out on the road again. This time their goal was not only treasures, but also new knowledge. With each new discovery, their kingdom became more powerful and enlightened, thanks to the efforts of Sarah and Adele. Their people lived in peace and prosperity, proud of their brave and smart princesses. On one of their new travels, Sarah and Adele came across a mysterious cave, the entrance to which was hidden behind a waterfall. They decided to explore it, hoping to find something unusual and important for their kingdom. After passing through the waterfall and entering the cave, they discovered ancient paintings on the walls, which turned out to be a map indicating the location of a lost city long gone from people's memory. Inspired by this discovery, the sisters began to follow the directions of the map, overcoming many obstacles and dangers. They knew that a great discovery was at stake that could change the history of their world. After a long and difficult search, they finally found the ruins of the lost city where amazing discoveries awaited them, including ancient technologies and knowledge lost centuries ago, but now rediscovered. Returning to their kingdom with new discoveries, Sarah and Adele shared their knowledge with scientists and craftsmen, thanks to which their homeland took a huge step forward in development and prosperity. They became legends of their time. Sarah and Adele enjoyed recognition and respect in the kingdom, but their souls longed for new adventures. One day, they heard about a legend that said that a magical artifact that bestows strength and wisdom is hidden in the distant mountains. They decided to go on this risky journey, gathering a team of their most loyal friends and allies. They knew that dangers and difficulties awaited them ahead, but they believed in their luck and courage. On the way to the mountains, they had to overcome stormy rivers, dense forests, and snowy peaks. Each obstacle only strengthened their determination, and together they became an increasingly harmonious and strong team. Eventually reaching the top, they found an ancient temple hidden from the eyes of people for centuries. Inside, there were trials that tested their wisdom, courage, and unity, each task more difficult than the last. Having overcome all the trials, Sarah and Adele finally found a magical artifact. Its power and wisdom were incredible. They decided to use it for the good of their kingdom, returning home with the greatest trophy. After returning from her latest adventure, Princess Sarah decided to visit her childhood friend, a boy named Leo, who always supported her in difficult moments. She knew that he would be interested in learning about her travels. When Sarah found Leo in the garden, they sat under a large oak tree and began to talk. She told him about all the trials they had to overcome and about the magical artifact they brought home. Leo listened attentively, asking questions and admiring the princess's courage and courage. His interest in her stories made Sarah relive all her adventures once again now through the prism of their conversation. They talked about a lot of things, about friendship, about family, about how important it is to believe in yourself and your friends. Each of their conversations opened up new facets of their relationship, making them even stronger and more trusting than before. At the end of the day, as Sarah and Leo said goodbye, they realized that their friendship had become even stronger thanks to these conversations, and that new adventures and challenges awaited them that they would overcome together. Soon after their conversation, Sarah and Leo began to discuss plans for the future, and the princess suggested organizing a trip around the kingdom to explore new places and learn more about her people and their culture. Leo was excited by the offer and immediately began to think of itineraries that might be of interest to them. They planned to visit the ancient villages, castles, and natural wonders that their country had to offer. Sarah and Leo agreed on a departure date and began preparing for the trip, packing essentials, studying maps, and deciding which places they wanted to visit first to make the most of the trip. Preparing for the trip brought them even closer together. They spent time together discussing their expectations and dreams for the future. Their bond became stronger, and they looked forward to new adventures together. When the day of departure arrived, Sarah and Leo happily said goodbye to the kingdom and set off full of hopes and expectations, confident that their journey would be the beginning of new great events and discoveries. At the beginning of the trip, Sarah and Leo were full of enthusiasm. They went to the first place of their route, an ancient village famous for its artisans and unique traditions, which interested them very much. The villagers greeted them with cordiality and offered to show them local crafts. Leo was fascinated by the skills of blacksmiths and weavers, and Sarah became interested in studying ancient legends associated with this village. They spent several days in the village helping the locals and learning about their culture, their research leading to surprising discoveries about ancient customs and forgotten technologies that could be useful to their kingdom. As they left the village, the locals gave them amulets symbolizing friendship and gratitude and wished them luck on their journey. Sarah and Leo felt that their journey had become even more meaningful. Traveling further, they continued to discover new places and meet interesting people. Each adventure strengthened their friendship and expanded their knowledge. They were sure that many more amazing discoveries awaited them. After visiting the village, Sarah and Leo continued their journey, heading towards an ancient castle that was famous for its dungeons and many secrets hidden within its stone walls. Inside the castle, they found many dark corridors and intricate passages, but following the directions on old maps, they discovered a hidden library full of ancient manuscripts and forgotten knowledge. In the library, they came across manuscripts describing ancient magical rituals and spells that were once used to protect the kingdom from external threats, and began to study them with great interest. Studying the manuscripts opened up new possibilities for them to use magic in their kingdom, and they realized that this knowledge could help improve the lives of their people and strengthen the royal defense. Returning home with new discoveries, Sarah and Leo felt that their journey had been successful and productive. Their relationships had been strengthened, and their kingdom had a rich heritage of knowledge that they were ready to use. Returning to their kingdom, Sarah and Leo shared all their discoveries with the king and queen. They talked about ancient rituals and magic that could significantly strengthen the defense of their country. The king and queen were deeply impressed by the knowledge their children brought, and immediately ordered the introduction of new magical practices to improve the safety and prosperity of the kingdom. Sarah and Leo began working to create new defensive fortifications and teach their subjects the basics of magic. Their efforts helped build trust and cohesion in the kingdom, which became even stronger. Over time, their kingdom became known not only for its cultural achievements, but also for the incredible protection provided by new magical knowledge and fortifications brought to life through adventure. Sarah and Leo continued their explorations and travels, knowing that every new experience and every discovery would enrich their kingdom, strengthen their friendship, and make the world around them safer and more wonderful.